Part 11. Taking stock of the top 10 golden fingers, the protagonist of Wanjie went crazy. Author, Chirp. Chapter 101. At this moment, when countless people in the world saw 9 dragon bones pulling a coffin, everyone took a breath. Everyone was shocked and inexplicable. 9, Kowloon coffin? What the hell is this? There is even a Kowloon coffin. Who is buried in this coffin? 9 dragons are needed to pull it? Simply terrible. Really? There is actually a Kowloon coffin? What kind of legendary figure can make Kowloon pull the coffin? Dragon. It's actually a real dragon skeleton? Horrible. Dragon. The remains of the legendary real dragon were actually pulled into a coffin using 9 dragons. What the hell, who is so extravagant? Countless people's scalps were numb in shock. You must know that creatures like dragons are definitely legendary existences. They are powerful and terrifying, and are so terrifying that they defy the heavens. But they didn't expect to see the 9 dragons pulling the coffin now. It's simply unbelievable. Of course, there are also some supreme and powerful worlds that dismiss this scene. Dragons. They are just stronger worms. For those truly powerful monks, not to mention the 9 dragons pulling the coffin, even the 9 gods pulling the coffin, are all very boring. Normal. But they are a minority after all. In this world, it is normal to be weak in strength. Therefore, countless people are shocked and countless people are horrified. At this time, in the mortal world, Kowloon pulls the coffin. What kind of existence is this? Hanli looked at the 9 dragon bones in the picture with some surprise, and felt his scalp numb. Although he already knew his future as the Dao ancestor, he was still at the peak of nascent soul. How could he not be shocked when he saw someone using 9 dragons to pull the coffin? How could he not be horrified? The 9 dragons pulling the coffin was terrifying. Who was the person in the coffin? He actually used 9 dragons to pull the coffin? For a moment, Hanli felt hairy. Numb. At the same time, the immortals reversed the world. 9927 dragon pulling the coffin, terrifying. Wanlin was also shocked. Kowloon pulls the coffin. This shit is so terrifying that it makes your scalp numb just thinking about it. Even Situnan felt incredible after seeing this shocking scene. Kowloon pulls the coffin. In their world, dragons are also one of the most powerful creatures. It was too late for others to pay respect and worship. Now, someone actually captured 9 dragons to use to pull the coffin? It's incredible. At this time, in the perfect plane, Shihao looked at the picture and felt that his scalp was numb when he saw himself facing the coffins drawn by 9 dragon bones. Kowloon pulls the coffin. He was confused and a little horrified. 9 dragons to pull the coffin. What kind of powerful man dares to use the 9 dragons to pull the coffin? The most important thing is, look at the dragon bone, it is clearly the bone of a real dragon. You know, the Bayan treasure technique he used is already a very powerful treasure technique. But the Biffin is not a dragon yet. It is just a dragon species. The Biffin itself is powerful and not weaker than the ferocious beast. The real dragon is naturally more powerful. But I don't want to. Someone actually used Kowloon to pull the coffin? This is. At this moment, Zioda's voice was also a little suspicious, and he looked at the 9 dragon bones in the Dao golden list with a confused face. Of course, what Ziota noticed was not the 9 dragon bones. His attention fell on the coffin behind Zhuangla. This is the bronze coffin of the 3rd generation, Ziota exclaimed and instantly revealed the name of this copper coffin. You know, Shihao was a little surprised. I don't know it, I just heard about it. I don't know who refined this thing, and I don't know where it came from. I have only heard some weird and unpredictable rumors, which can only be understood but cannot be explained in words. Ziota let out a long breath. The bronze coffin of the 3rd generation, Shihao was shocked and confused. At this time, countless people in the upper world were shocked and confused when they saw this scene. But those who knew about the bronze coffins of these three generations were extremely shocked. At this moment, countless powerful people gathered together and headed to the fire state. They wanted to go to the abyss and the canyon to find the bronze coffin of the third generation. This three-generation copper coffin is definitely an extremely terrifying existence. Who wouldn't want it? Even if it is used as a defensive holy weapon, it is good. As for whether they can find it, it depends on their luck and opportunity. At this time, in the world of Jishin, Kowloon pulls the coffin. Yefan looked at the 9 dragon bones in the picture in shock, with a face full of surprise and uncertainty. Others were shocked by the 9 dragons coffin, but Yefan was shocked by the 9 dragons coffin itself. You know, why I came to this place just because of Julong La coffin. If it weren't for Julong La coffin, he would still be on Earth. Who wouldn't want to go home after being brought to this terrifying unknown star field by Julong La coffin? That 9 dragons La coffin is too mysterious. It is too ancient, and no one knows what is going on. In their world, a 9 dragon coffin appears. And in this perfect plane, a 9 dragon coffin also appears. For a moment, Yefan was surprised and doubted them. Is there any connection between this world and the perfect world? They are both 9 dragons pulling coffins. Although the 9 dragons he saw were dragon corpses, and the 9 dragons in the picture were dragon bones. Apart from this difference, in other aspects, almost identical. Julong pulls the coffin, Shihao, and Yexingxian, Yefan said to himself. He felt that there were more and more mysteries, and he felt like his scalp was exploding. He suspected that their world must have some connection with this perfect plane. Otherwise, he wouldn't have felt that way. Whoosh! At this moment, another stream of light shot out from the imperial palace and flew toward him. Ha ha ha, what a god, the Taoist master is here again. Little brother, you can't control that big and dangerous thing of yours, so let me control it. At this time, the unscrupulous Taoist priest Duanda flew over again with a smile, staring at the psychic weapon in front of Yefan, drooling. Grass. Yet. Fan's face darkened. Damn fat man, can't you find someone else to trap? You are even more cheating than that Cao Yasheng. Cao Yasheng. When Duanda heard this name, he was slightly startled. He always felt an inexplicable sense of familiarity. However, he could not remember where this familiarity came from. In the end, it could only be attributed to the appearance of the Dao Golden List, because the previous scene was somewhat familiar to him because of the interaction between Shihao and Cao Yasheng. He shook his head and threw the sense of familiarity behind him, and then grinned. Why, you compare me to Cao Yasheng, and you think you are Huangtian God. It's a pity that you don't have the strength of Huangtian Emperor. Fatty, Yefan gritted his teeth. Hee, Master Dao won't let you suffer. Come on, this is a heaven-defying treasure. It can save your life at a critical moment. I will exchange this for you. Duanda said, took out a jade bead with a corner missing, and exchanged the psychic weapon with Yefan with a smile. What the hell? Yefan was so angry that his teeth itched. He watched the unscrupulous Taoist priest Duanda go away and cursed in his heart. When I get stronger, I will beat you up. Not leaving, he sat down on the ground, looked at the imperial palace, and then looked at the golden list of the avenue. He was helpless. At the same time, I was still thinking in my mind. What kind of connection is there between my own world and that perfect plane? He was puzzled. At the same time, in the Holy Ruins world. This thing, Chu Feng was a little surprised. Looking at the 9-dragon coffin in the golden list of the avenue, he always felt some inexplicable sense of familiarity, especially the texture of the coffin. He subconsciously took out the stone box from his arms and looked at the flatness in his hand. Wookie, the stone box is just like an ordinary stone box, it always feels strange and strange, with a strangely familiar feeling. What are you doing? Huang Niu looked at the box in Chu Feng's hand, a little surprised, and subconsciously asked. This thing is mine. Chu Feng said, then paused, glanced sideways at the scalper, and said calmly, this thing was passed down from my ancestors. What's wrong? Do you have any objections? Ancestry. Huang Niu looked at Chu Feng with some surprise and uncertainty, his face full of doubts. What? Don't believe it, Chu Feng smiled, and immediately put the box away. He always thought that this thing was a treasure. He kept it anyway. But now, there is an inexplicable feeling about the Great Dao Golden List and Shi Hao's coffin. Maybe their world has some connection with that perfect world. At this moment, countless people in the world have different reactions, however, no one knows what the situation of the 9 dragons pulling the coffin is. At this time, it can be seen that in the picture, accompanied by Shi Hao's exploration. Soon, he discovered that there was another coffin among the coffins. Coffin within a coffin. It was a small coffin, also a copper coffin, just as old, and the chaotic energy was permeating from the bronze coffin. That small coffin was just big enough to bury one person, but Shi Hao had no idea who was lying in the coffin. Shi Hao wanted to unlock the secret of the coffin, but found that this thing was invulnerable, even more complete than his body. He approached Yu Baoshu and planned to open the coffin. Unexpectedly, the coffin didn't move at all. Not even with physical strength. It was as if there was some terrifying force preventing him from opening the coffin. He didn't believe in evil, and he used all his strength. As a result, he tried his best and finally managed to lift an inch higher, and then nothing happened. Thousands of auspicious clouds emerged from inside, surrounded by fairy light, but in the end, the strange power exploded, and the coffin lid closed again. Open again, Shi Hao shouted loudly. However, this time, he heard a huge trembling sound. Countless shouts of killing rang out. A picture appeared in front of him. It was a fight of endless creatures, as if the whole world was full of people. They were crushed. Countless corpses fell. The key is that these people were too powerful. They traveled across the world, reaching up to the 9 heavens and down to the 9 netherworlds, killing to the end of the world, causing the sky to collapse and the earth to split. Shi Hao's scalp was numb. What on earth was this? What level of master? He couldn't figure it out. Then, he saw the copper coffin being pulled by 9 dragons and leaving that terrible world. The bronze coffin crossed the long river and caused huge waves. And that long river? Shi Hao's eyelids twitched, feeling that it was like a long river of time. He didn't know what kind of river it was. Anyway, in the end, everything disappeared, leaving only endless mystery. What era was that? Where did it happen? Shi Hao's heart was trembling, and he felt incredible. Then, in a daze, he seemed to have thought of something. His pupils shrank. I seem to have met Lu Shen. He is too familiar with Lu Shen. Whether it is Lu Shen's appearance or Lu Shen's identity, he is too familiar with it. He seems to have seen the world war where Lu Shen is. But what it is, he is not. It was clear. Finally, he let out a long breath. He knew that this coffin contained a shocking secret. If it were opened, it would definitely shock the 3,000 states. Shi Hao tried many times to take the coffin away. But in the end, he gave up. He couldn't take this thing away at all. It was so harmful that it seemed like an enlarged world. He looked at the dragon bone again and wanted to take it away, hoping that a dragon could emerge from the dragon bone. The marrow came. But before he could take action, he saw a ball of flame. He didn't know if it was the chaos flame. He only knew that this flame had its own consciousness and was hostile to him. At the same time, next to the coffin, another ball of fire appeared. The flame that was hostile to him was the flame of the green snake. and the flame next to the coffin was as bright as the moonlight. The flame scared the green flame away, and Shihao, even more in a daze. In the end, the two flames collided with each other, as if they were human beings fighting each other. After the collision, both sides disappeared. Shihao was a little numb and stayed for a long time before looking at the dragon bone. He was still thinking about it. Dragon bone soup, I want to boil out the marrow of the dragon bone. There is indeed dragon marrow, but I can't get it out at all. I bite it with my teeth rattle, and I almost burst into tears. It's useless to use magic. It's useless to use a treasure. He couldn't return empty-handed, either take away the coffin or take away the dragon bone. But this thing is too huge, and the space prop is ineffective. But when he went to carry it, he felt that the coffin was heavy. Like a mountain. It was possible to carry it, but it was just barely, and Shihao felt it was difficult. In the end, Shihao searched everywhere again and found a damaged world treasure box. The world treasure box exploded, and countless treasures popped out. Shihao, at first glance, it made me feel heartbroken. All the treasures were broken into pieces and were damaged by the power of exploding the void. Only a piece of black stone was not damaged and was intact. A small piece weighed 100,000 kilograms. He carefully collected it. He got up, and then looked at the others. Finally, he found two sky-breaking talisman. With these things, he felt that he could finally pull the dragon corpse coffin away. As expected, he used the sky-breaking talisman to control looking in the direction. He took the bronze coffin and 9 skeletons with him and disappeared here in an instant, sinking into the depths of the ground 100,000 miles away. He put the copper coffin away, finally breathed a sigh of relief, and then left this place. Immediately, the scene changed turn. Shihao left the Abyss 0.1 and heard that if you walk through the ladder of Tianxian Academy, you can obtain the qualification for suction. Shihao was overjoyed. He was planning to absorb the golden Buddha fruit. If he could baptize it, the success rate would definitely increase. So, Shihao broke through the level with force. In the penultimate level, Shihao faced a green lantern. Facing the green lantern, a voice came from the green lantern, which was deafening. What is Tao? Shihao was quiet for a moment, and then said, no roots, no stems, no leaves, no glory. All things are born, all things are completed, and the destiny is called Tao. What is Tao? This is still the same sentence in Qingdeng. Born in the heaven and earth, lonely, independent and unchanging, moving around without peril, it can be the mother of the world, it can be called the way. Shihao replied again. Can it be the way? The road is vast and can be controlled. What is Tao? Wanyin and Wanyang are called Tao. What is Tao? At this moment, Shihao and the green lantern asked and answered. What is Tao? This question is too grand. Everyone has a different understanding of Tao. Even if Shihao has a lotus flower in his mouth and can distinguish ghosts and gods, there is a way to answer it. Even if those giants come and talk for days and nights, they may not be the perfect answer for Qingdeng. What is Tao? At this time, the Qingdeng asked again. Shihao was annoyed. Without saying a word, he stood up, kicked the Qingdeng over, and snorted coldly, this is the Tao. At this moment, countless people were dumbfounded when they saw this scene, looking at Shihao with confused faces. Immediately, everyone sneered again. It was so powerless. This kid was probably going to be expelled. However, a dumbfounding scene came, because Shihao entered the last level directly. The green lantern actually allowed Shihao to pass. Everyone was dumbfounded. It felt incredible. At this moment, in front of Shihao, an old man appears. And this man is Qi Daolin. Taking stock of the top 10 golden fingers, the protagonist of Wanjie went crazy. Author, Chirp. Chapter 102. Buzz. At this moment, in front of Shihao, the void twisted, a hazy divine light emerged, and a man wearing a golden Taoist robe appeared in front of Shihao. Good. He nodded gently at Shihao, nodded and smiled. His hair was snow white, his eyes were deep, and he had an immortal air. At first glance, he looked like an expert from this world, with an otherworldly aura. The old man was very kind and smiled at Shihao. Well, I've seen seniors. When Shihao saw this man, he immediately saluted and cautiously. Are you willing to enter my dojo? The old man asked with a smile. His temperament was too earthly and ethereal, as if he would transform into an immortal at any time. Can you let me soak in the divine pool for a few days? Shihao muttered in a low voice. As soon as he said this, the people around him were stunned and turned to stone on the spot. The old man smiled slightly and joked, haha, you don't want to steal fragrance and jade to find a companion, right? Good, Shihao chuckled and looked at King Ai below. This King Ai is actually the transformation of Yueshin. Of course, this is Yueshin's second body. It was the one who went to the church to marry Shihao, no one else knew about it. At this time, the old man smiled and said, don't worry, come into my dojo. The tribulation god Lotus Pond allows you to come and go at will. Of course, don't just take a bath and forget to practice. As soon as these words came out, people around him were envious. And Shihao even promised, Senior, please don't worry, I guarantee that I can do this. At this time, the old man waved his sleeves, and the tortoise shells crackled, and he said again, I temporarily occupied it. After a hexagram, you have a destiny with Tianxian Academy, and there is a Taoist companion right in front of you. As he said that, he did not forget to glance at Yu Chan. The meaning was self-evident. Countless people were stunned. Damn, it was so outrageous. Everyone present regarded this old man as the dean. Thinking that the dean is messing with the Mandarin duck records. Of course, those who have such thoughts are naturally the male disciples. As for the female disciple, she is just rolling her eyes and wants to become Shihao's Taoist companion. Okay, enter my dojo and become my disciple, this matter is settled, just leave with me. At this time, the old man spoke and said to Shihao. Shihao nodded, but then thought of something again, and said, aren't you going to the immortal pond? Where is the tribulation divine lotus? 25. This is his biggest goal. He doesn't want to go to a dojo and then fall into disrepair. After hearing this, the old man smiled and said, you brat, you are really worthless. There will be many opportunities to enter the fairy pond in the future, and there is still a shortcoming. Want some time? As he said that, he waved his sleeves and disappeared directly with Shihao. Countless people's scalps were numb. And on the other side, the void was twisted. The figures of Shihao and the old man appeared in the mountains. Shihao looked around, curious. He asked, Senior, is this the depths of Tianxian Academy? Well, not really, but very close, the old man nodded. Then, at this moment, Shihao let out a light sigh. He saw a pair of grand gates in front of him, and saw the towering gates. Magnificent and huge, the vicissitudes of ancient times came to his face. He looked up, and then he saw the 4 ancient characters, Supreme Dojo. Shihao was a little surprised. Why is there no word celestial being? However, this name. What the hell, is it too domineering and arrogant? Supreme Dojo. Dare you use the name Supreme? At the same time, he suddenly thought of the Supreme Hall. In the Supreme Hall, there is only one person in each generation, who is the supreme inheritance and has been hostile to the immortal palace for generations. What does this Supreme Hall have with the Supreme Dojo? Does it matter? It shouldn't matter. After all, he is the Dean of Tianxian Academy. It should be the retreat place of the Dean of Tianxian Academy. However, at this moment, the old man suddenly said, remember. This dojo is the highest in the world. Inheritance. Once you enter this place, you must not regret it. You must fight for it. At this moment, the old man was very serious, and his temperament was completely different. He was like a supreme being, looking down upon the world and arrogating the 3,000 states. Shi Hao was stunned. Tianxian Academy. The highest inheritance in the world? This old man is too much. Is it a big deal? Is Tianxian Academy so famous? He was in a trance. At this time, are you willing to join my religion and fight for it? The old man asked, majestic and sacred, like a god looking down on the common people. Shi Hao was a little entangled, but in the end, he bit the bullet and said yes. The big deal is that you can just make up for it after you leave later. At this time, the old man listened to Shi Hao's words, nodded slightly, and said, remember, you are a disciple of my Taoist temple. If you cannot be respected in the world in the future, drive you out of the door. Promise the world? What the heck, is this requirement too high? There are so many disciples in Tianxian Academy. Is it possible that the disciples who have come out of the past generations can dominate the world? At the same time, he still has some doubts. Why does this old man always say if you are in the dojo, don't you mention Tianxian Academy? Senior, is this the core of Tianxian Academy? Shi Hao couldn't help but ask. Not the core of Tianxian Academy, but the transcendence above. The old man was serious and solemn. He was very extraordinary. Shi Hao was surprised. A place more important than the center? Extraordinary. Who is this old man? The dean? Or a protector? Or maybe he is a priest of Tianxian Academy spirit. He couldn't think clearly, and there were countless guesses in his mind. At this time, just listen, the old man said again. Okay, it's time to cross this door. Once you enter, you will never be able to regret it for the rest of your life. I will give it to you again, last chance. Can you think it through? Shi Hao was speechless. For a moment, he was a little hesitant. Then, he asked again, Senior, when can I go pick the Tribulation Divine Lotus? This was the purpose of his coming to Tianxian Academy. However, the old man sneered and said disdainfully, what's so good about the Tribulation Divine Lotus? Relatively speaking, this thing is just pig food for pigs, so don't worry too much. What? Shi Hao was stunned. What the hell? What he said is getting more and more outrageous. The Tribulation Divine Lotus is used to feed pigs. This is something that countless gods want. In the end, you said it is used to feed pigs. Countless people have paid for it. He fought life and death, but in the end, you are worthless. He was a little doubtful. At this time, he heard the old man cough twice. It's too far away. You only need to know that in the past, there was a number one in the upper world who taught me spiritual roots are enough. The number one spiritual root in the upper world? Shi Hao was surprised. He felt that it was more and more mysterious. I guess it's lost now, right? I'll find it back sooner or later. Then let's talk about the Tribulation Divine Lotus. Where do you just want to take a bath with a few girls? Look at your potential. My fair lady, what a gentleman. I hesitated a little, thinking that I would be famous for the rest of my life. If I teach a flower thief, won't I lose my face? At this moment, the old man and the young man were talking to each other. Finally, they arrived in front of the Grand Mountain Gate. The door was surrounded by golden light, making the old man even more extraordinary. The Tribulation Divine Lotus is pretty good too, don't worry, you can often go in and out of the fairy pond when the time comes. At this time, the old man spoke calmly and finally got to the point. Okay, since Senior said so, then I will obey your orders, Shi Hao said, stepping through the door together. Then take the oath here, the old man spoke solemnly. Make an oath? Shi Hao secretly cursed, what is the binding force of this? Make an oath with me, Come. The old man said, and he finished praying a not very long but absolutely stern oath. Then, the old man asked Shihao to drop a drop of blood essence and sprinkle it on the oath. Then, the oath was directly ignited and disappeared. What is this doing? Shihao was puzzled. At this time, he listened and the old man said lightly, this is a curse. Once you apostatize, you will be punished by heaven, fall into the land of calamity forever, and suffer many hardships and die. Do you want to be so vicious? Shihao took a breath and felt like he was on a pirate ship. This old guy actually cast a curse to restrain himself? So? Do you want to apostatize? The old man glanced sideways at Shihao and reminded with a smile, this curse is very powerful. Shihao looked at the old man blankly. This old guy didn't seem to be as immortal as he looked. He was speechless. After a long time, he said dully, I wonder what you call me, senior. Chi Daolin. The old man smiled and said. Have you heard of this name? Shihao was a little embarrassed. He had only been here for a long time, but he still said without conscience, I have admired the name of my senior for a long time, and it is like thunder in my ears. Is it? Chi Daolin was surprised. Obviously, looking at Shihao's reaction, he knew that Shihao had obviously not heard his name. Chi Daolin smiled, and immediately took Shihao to see the dojo. Then, Shihao was surprised. This dojo was so huge that he didn't know how many thousands of miles he had traveled. It was so big that it was unbelievable. He even saw a city with living beings living in it. This was not like a dojo, but like a small world. Shihao became more and more suspicious, is this really a dojo? Didn't this old man take him to the outside world? He was very suspicious. I've said it before, our dojo will be as big as our hearts are. Haven't you understood what I mean? Chi Daolin smiled and spoke slowly. Shihao's mind was full of questions, and then he suddenly said, the dojo doesn't have only one door, right? Bingo. Chi Daolin nodded. When you enter the door, you face the entire world. This is our dojo. If we are like other sects and use the ground as a prison, how can we be worthy of us? At this moment, Chi Daolin's domineering attitude is exposed. Shihao was dumbfounded. Is this okay? Then, Shihao knew the true identity of Chi Daolin. It wasn't until this moment that he realized that he had been fooled. Chi Daolin, Supreme Taoist Master. In fact, it was the Supreme Palace, which was destroyed by the Immortal Palace and several other great religions. It wasn't until the Supreme Palace was destroyed that Chi Daolin stole lessons from hundreds of families and became notorious. However, this Chi Daolin was really good at Taoism and taught Shihao the 8-9 heavenly skills. Beijiu Tiangong is the method of controlling treasure arts, the invincible way, superior to magical powers, higher than treasure arts, and higher than all other methods. In the next period of time, Shihao will be practicing here, carrying mountains to practice every day. Immediately, Chi Daolin gave Shihao another black token, which could be used to enter the fairy pond of Tianxian Academy. After that, Shihao began to completely refine the golden Buddha fruit. But this thing is difficult to refine. One bite almost made his scalp numb with shock. If Yueshin's second body hadn't helped him, he might not have been able to refine it. In order to repay Yueshin, Shihao offered to help her conquer Qingyuan. Finally, after subduing the Qingyuan, Yu Chan finally entered the divine fire realm. Immediately, Shihao returned to the Supreme Dojo and continued to practice on the mountain in accordance with Chi Daolin's instructions. The Supreme Dojo is notorious. Now that Shihao is the successor of the Supreme Dojo, he naturally attracts countless people to besiege him. And Shihao was really strong. Don't reject anyone who comes, beat them all down. Especially the celestial race. What the hell, they had a grudge back then, and now, a good opportunity for revenge has come. Just beat these guys until their bones are broken. He even stole the immortal gold from the celestial clan. At this moment, as the scene in the Great Dao Golden List appeared, in the perfect plane, countless people hated him and gritted their teeth. Especially the Celestial Clan and the Celestial Academy. This Shihao is simply nothing. When the Celestials saw Shihao stealing the immortal gold, their eyes instantly turned red. If Shihao hadn't been in the lower realm now, they would have wanted to break through the lower realm and kill Shihao by force. However, they also breathed a sigh of relief. As long as they saw the future picture now, there would always be a way to deal with Shihao. At this time, in the perfect plane, in the lower realm, in the palace of the Stone Kingdom, Shihao looked at everything happening in the picture and felt a toothache. There are more and more enemies of mine. Hey, don't worry, I'm here to keep you safe. 707, Xiaoda said with a smile. You. Shihao looked at the small tower, then glanced at the Grand Avenue Gold List, and said quietly, didn't you see that you and Lu Shen have entered the Primordial Gate? In the future, Xiaoda and Lu Shen will enter the Primordial Gate. And it won't be long. If Xiaoda and Lu Shen hadn't entered the Primordial Gate, how could he have been defeated by those 7 puppets without strong foreign aid? God was severely injured to the point of death? As long as Lu Shen and Xiaoda are left alone, he will not have the kind of thing that will happen in the future. Hey, kid, don't worry, I will definitely be able to come out of the Primordial Gate, and when the time comes, I will avenge you, Xiaoda laughed. Buzz. At this moment, a portal suddenly appeared in the void, and Lu Shen's Dharma body descended. Willow God, Shihao was delighted and hurried forward to greet him. Lu Shen nodded slightly, and immediately looked at Xiaoda. Shihao instantly noticed this move. Are you leaving? He was a little sad. Lu Shen and Xiaoda, to a certain extent, were both his protectors. Now that they are gone, he is really reluctant to leave. Lu Shen was silent for a moment, and then he said quietly, Primordial Gate. It opened wide, the leader of the upper realm was beheaded, and it also took back the 2-story tower. It was time to leave. What is inside this primitive gate? Shihao asked subconsciously. You will find out in the future. Lu Shen spoke lightly. Shihao frowned, and immediately looked at Lu Shen, as if he had thought of something, and suddenly said, Lu Shen, in that picture, one of the people fighting in the bronze coffin, is you, Lu. Shen stared at Shihao for a moment, and then said, you will know when the time comes. This sentence again. Shihao has a toothache. Let's go. Don't worry, even if you enter the primitive gate, I will still watch you, Xiaoda said with a smile. You can see the Great Dao Golden List, whether it is the upper realm or the lower realm, whether it is the primitive gate or the dark place. Therefore, no matter where they go, they can watch Shihao. Again, in addition, they were relieved to know that Shihao was the son of fate. At least, Shihao would not do this easily. Fine, Shihao sighed. He watched Lu Shen and Xiaoda leave, and finally sighed quietly. He subconsciously stared at the Dao Gold List. To be honest, he wanted to become stronger now, go to the upper world, and kill him to turn the world upside down. Go help Lu Shen and Xiaoda again. At this moment, it was seen that in the Dao Golden List, the scene changed. Shihao and the Dao Tuong duel. Yun 11 came to the rescue. Qi Daolin took action. The battle of geniuses in the 3000 states was about to begin. Those who successfully enter the Immortal Ancient will have the opportunity to seize the creation of heaven and earth and stand proudly at the top of the eternity. The end of the world is approaching, and this is the last chance to enter the Immortal Ancient. Therefore, there must be countless strong people, and the difficulty is far beyond ordinary. Shihao didn't care about this, thinking that he could still defeat the others. He teamed up with the Divine Stone and Emperor Butterfly to head to Sin Continent, intending to participate in the Genius War. And here, he met someone, Huo Ling. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Taking stock of the top 10 golden fingers, the protagonist of Wanjie went crazy. Author, Chirp. Chapter 103. Sin State. It is 230 million miles long from east to west and 80 million miles long from north to south. Most of these so-called guilty states are the descendants of prisoners imprisoned in prisons in the lower world. They are called the descendants of sinful blood. The Fire Nation is the sinners of the lower world. The Stone Kingdom is also a sinner in the lower world. And Shihao happens to be from the Stone Kingdom and the Stone Clan. The so-called sinful blood also flows in his body. They, the Stone Clan, are also the main descendants of sin blood, and are deeply despised by all clans. There is a treasure mirror that can be used to detect sinful blood. The higher the talent of the owner of the clan, the more obvious the mark on the forehead will be. Shihao put his hand on the mirror, and then, buzz, at this moment, a ray of light shot up into the sky and continued to surge, as if it was shining on the sky. It was like a river of stars, complex and strange, mysterious and brilliant. There was a desolate sound in Shihao's ears. We are not the descendants of guilty blood. Our ancestors have great achievements, and have been fighting at the forefront. They are still continuing to write glory with blood and bones. We are not sinners, the blood flowing in our bodies is not dirty. It is glory. It records past achievements. We are not sinners. Our ancestors are still fighting there, sealing off the heaven and earth, and cutting off their own retreat. They are still fighting bloody battles to guard the border wilderness. The loud voice resounded through Shihao's mind, making him excited, and there was an indescribable feeling flowing in his heart. Sin. It once represented a kind of glory, and it once represented a kind of brilliance. But now, its original meaning is gone. Shihao could not calm down for a long time. He wiped his face, but found that his cheeks were blurred with tears. Previously everything that happened was so real that he was infected. The vision that happened on Shihao's side was quickly noticed by various religions. Someone performed a divination on Shihao. However, this divination was a verbal divination. Blood, mouth full of blood foam. He was horrified, with a face full of disbelief and confusion. He couldn't predict anything. The most important thing is that he also suffered a backlash. Countless people were shocked and looked at the protector in astonishment. Protector, the Taoist whispered, as if he couldn't hear all the sounds. The distant future is chaos. Looking back again, there was nothingness behind him. He doesn't seem to belong to this entire ancient history. The short words made countless people in the world bewildered. Countless people looked at everything that happened on the screen in surprise. In the Dao Golden List, there were countless voices of communication. What does it mean? Doesn't it belong to this entire ancient history? Did Shihao jump out of the three realms? Not among the five elements. Haha, I was laughing so hard. Do you know what Shihao will do in the future? That is the Emperor of Desolate Heaven, an existence that has been arbitrary for eternity. The arrogant Emperor of Eternity. How can a little guardian like you be able to divine? Not being turned into a powder by the future Emperor Huang Tian is considered a lucky man. Life is hard or dead. By the way, what the hell is chaos in the distant future? Behind him, there is nothingness. Sure enough, this is arbitrary for eternity. At this time, countless people were discussing. Everyone looked at the golden list of the great Dao. But as they saw, Shihao caused such visions. He also knew that he could not stay for a long time, so he hurriedly ran away. He wanted to perform the great perfection of the Venerable, so he began to baptize with thunder and lightning, tempered his body with thunder and lightning, and successfully entered the great perfection of the Venerable. His strength finally caught up. Shihao didn't know how long this battle of geniuses would last. In order not to have regrets after many years, entering Luo City, I saw Huo Ling in the fire mulberry forest. The girl picked mulberry and looked after the fire cicada. Shihao looked at one of the mulberry picking girls, he was in a trance, and he was in a daze. She was carrying the bamboo building on her back, and the red glow was blooming inside. Piled with fire mulberry leaves, she was dressed in coarse linen, but her skin was like snow, and she was naturally beautiful. Huo Ling. At this moment, Shihao seemed to have thousands of thoughts rushing into his heart, but he felt blocked. For a moment, I don't know how. Huo Ling is tall, has clear eyes, and is naturally beautiful. She has sweat on her face, just like an ordinary mulberry picking girl, doing these things naturally and skillfully. The clothes are very rough and simple. Wash until he turns white. He is quiet and ethereal, very different from his lively appearance in the past. The former princess of a country is now picking mulberries here. At this time, the perfect plain, the lower realm, the imperial capital of the Stone Kingdom. Huo Ling. Shihao looked at everything that happened in the picture, and looked at Huo Ling who was skilled in picking mulberry, and his whole body was trembling. How so? The majestic princess of a country is picking mulberry trees. He couldn't believe it. Huo Ling used to be so lively and agile. But now, she has become a mulberry picking girl. In the past, she could wear whatever clothes she wanted, and she could be as gorgeous as she wanted. The result, when she arrived in the upper realm, she was wearing the whitewashed coarse linen clothes. He opened his mouth, and for a moment, he felt like his heart was filled with panic. Huo Ling went to the upper world. He has already gone to the upper world. He thought that Huo Ling had some kind of inheritance in the upper world. Even in Sin State, in the fire country of Sin State, his status should be quite high. As a result, it turned out to be like this. At this moment, Shihao was a little angry. He could not wait to rush to the world, find Huo Ling and completely liberate this sinful state. He clenched his fists subconsciously. He still needs to get stronger. Only by becoming stronger can all this be changed. At this moment, not only Shihao was panicking, but countless people in all the worlds were also panicking when they saw this scene. Huo Ling who was once lively and agile, has now fallen into such a state? A princess from a country is picking mulberries here? Countless people don't understand, and countless people sigh. Sure enough, no matter how brilliant you are in the lower realm, after arriving in the upper realm, you are just an ant and will not be seen by others. At this moment, it can be seen that in the picture. Shihao finally and Huo Ling admit it. Huo Ling's heart was trembling when she looked at the person in front of her. She didn't want to cry, but the tears fell down unsatisfactorily. You are still alive, Huo Ling looked at Shihao and dropped the barrel in his hand. Her heart is trembling. Whoosh, at this moment, the night wolf god cub that Shihao had given to Huo Ling appeared instantly and threw itself into Shihao's arms. Immediately, little wolf god took Shihao to see the tomb set up by Huo Ling for Shihao. Shihao looked at the grave and Huo Ling smiled, and his heart trembled. You don't need to think about it to know that the moment she heard about Shihao's death, she would definitely shed tears every time. That kind of emotion cannot be expressed in words. There were only a few words. After a brief reunion, Shihao told everything. He was Huang, he was the man whose forehead bones became holy and whose sins and blood collapsed in the clouds. Huo Ling was shocked. Immediately, Shihao asked Huo Ling why he was like this and what happened after he came to the upper world. She was once a princess of a country who was indescribably noble, but now she was dressed in coarse linen and washed the clothes by the river with her own hands. He felt sour in his heart. This is not the lower realm after all, Huo Ling sighed and recounted his experiences over the years. The emperor of a country in the lower realm is respected by thousands of people and is the center of countless people. However, in the upper realm, in front of the gods, in front of the powerful people from all sides, the emperor of the lower realm. What does it mean? Naturally, there is no glory or glory in the past. However, the father and daughter are the direct descendants of the fire tribe in the upper realm after all. People, and created extraordinary situations in the lower world, were treated favorably and were given royal estates, etc. However, as hundreds of elixirs were transplanted, they gradually transformed, especially after they became holy elixirs. Trouble is coming. Who wouldn't be jealous when more than a dozen holy medicine plants grow together? As a result, many people are eyeing them and coveting them. The Fire Emperor was very decisive and directly donated the holy medicine and returned the manor to them. The fire tribe in the upper realm then floated away with Huoling. Finally, the father and daughter came here and lived a very simple and ordinary life. I see. Shihao nodded, finally understanding. The two talked for a while, and at this moment, the bell rang faintly. The genius war in Sankinzo was about to begin. Huolinger was very worried. Those people are all geniuses, very strong. Heir to the immortal palace, 6-crown champion, very strong, but also very ruthless. She was afraid that Shihao would encounter any danger. Regarding this, don't worry. Wait for my return. No matter who is the descendant of the 6-crown king immortal palace, as long as they target me, they will all be killed. At this moment, Shihao felt unparalleled in his confidence, just like he had in Beiduan Mountain. Before their separation, the two of them planted mulberry trees and flowers in the courtyard together. Shihao's eyes were filled with tears, as if he saw mulberry flowers blooming every year. I thank you every year, but I never come back. How many years will it take for this separation? 100 years of ups and downs, or 1,000 years, no matter what, I will definitely come back, Shihao solemnly promised and immediately rose into the sky. Must come back. Huolinger looked at Shihao's back and murmured softly. She knew that Shihao had to go, but she also hoped that Shihao would come back safely. Soon, Shihao arrived at the place. She made some inquiries. After that, Shihao was extremely stunned. Good guy, this time, 8 million venerables actually participated. It's simply terrifying. The first battle was held in the spiritual world of Sin Island. 8 avenues lead from all directions to the Supreme Ancient Altar, and the top 10,000 people are on board. Only those who stand on the altar can be qualified for the war. The disciples of all religions guarded the entrance of the altar, letting the Sin blood descendants get to the back. Many people present were the so-called Sin blood descendants. Shihao was naturally one of them. Seeing those people targeting the so-called Sin blood descendants, Shihao became angry. He completely let go of his hands and feet, broke out and started killing. Boom boom boom. The divine light was bright, countless streams of light flew by, and blood spilled across the sky. The leaders of each religion were suppressed by Shihao. He looked around indifferently at all the geniuses, and coldly snorted, I am here today, Demon Dragon Dao Sect, Luofujian Valley, Fire Cloud Cave, etc., none of you Taoists can even dream of ascending the altar. Anyone who dares to take a step closer will be killed without mercy. He shouted loudly, and the sound shook the whole world. The face of the disciple was so ugly. But the Sin blood descendants clenched their fists subconsciously, and their blood boiled. They wished they were Shihao and killed everyone. They wished they could go there themselves. Destroyed those sect disciples who looked down upon others. At this moment, Shihao shocked the heroes. Immediately, he stepped forward and rushed directly to the 9th floor altar in one breath. Ruxia, thousands of ways, hundreds of thousands of years of records are here. The moment was broken by Shihao. Immortal flowers bloomed, and 3,000 avenues spread out. Customs clearance personnel from various states entered Immortal Ancient along the avenue. But Shihao did not enter immediately. He sat cross-legged on the bluestone road and quietly observed enlightenment. He used the heaven and earth as a furnace, used 10,000 ways as fire, burned his body, burned his soul, and built his true self. When the number of flames increased to 108, his whole body was scorched black and his vitality was severely injured. He entered the demon dragon, the Xiaoqian world where the Dao sect is located, killed its first generation, and then skillfully washed the dragon and boiled it in a medicine cauldron. This dragon meat is a great tonic. After eating it, the injured body fully recovered. After defeating the two, accepted the two as his younger brothers, and ordered them to find the holy medicine. And he himself returned to Qingxi Road to continue practicing. With the help of the medicinal power of Xiushan Divine Vine, Shi Hao successfully refined his body with 1,400 kinds of Taoist fire. At this time, the changes were sudden life. In the void, an ancient lamp appeared. The grey fog filled the air, and a man holding a bronze war spear came to Shi Hao. This man's magic was similar to that of Shi Hao, and the attack caused a riot in the world. Whatever Shi Hao knew, he knew what he knew. In the end, Shi Hao combined many treasures to defeat him, and pinned him to the ground with a halberd. The grey fog dissipated, and then he saw that this man looked very similar to Shi Hao. He was wearing ancient immortal clothes, his hair was grey, as if Shi Hao was old. Shi Hao was in a trance. Is there really reincarnation in the world? Is this person his, Wang Hao, past life? He was a little surprised and felt something was wrong, but he was in a difficult mood. Rather, you, kill me. The creature that looked similar to Shi Hao was a little unbelievable, and there was some confusion in his cloudy eyes. Why? Why? Kill it, kill it. Shi Hao Mingzhen's Taoist heart. There is only one me in this world, and my Taoist heart is unshakable. At this moment, we saw again, the screen turned, Shi Hao came to Guangming City. He took the 8 treasure qi and destroyed the first generation. After eating and drinking, he finally entered the evil nest to explore. And here, he met 2 people. 1, it's Qin Hao. 1, it's Shi Yi. This is impossible. Qin Hao looked at Shi Hao in shock, his face full of disbelief, as if he had seen a ghost. You are still alive. Qin Hao looked at Shi Hao, his chest heaved and his mind was hard to calm down. Shi Hao looked at Qin Hao and smiled slightly. What? When you see me, why don't you call me brother? Brother, brother, Qin Hao uttered 2 words and finally calmed down. However, he was still shocked. I never expected that my dead brother would come back to life. Moreover, my brother has become stronger. Brother, what are you doing? Qin Hao looked at Shi Hao and asked subconsciously. He just wanted to know how Shi Hao survived. My destiny is great, God wants to take me in, but can't take me away. Shi Hao smiled and passed on the bitter words. The two talked. At this moment, a person appeared. Strong and confident. He looked down on the world, with a heroic appearance, and an invincible self-confidence in his eyes. The sun and the moon rotated, and the galaxy was disillusioned. That was, Shi Yi. In the past, Shi Hao's most powerful enemy was also the goal he wanted to surpass since he was a child. But he didn't expect that he would meet here. And obviously, Shi Yi also discovered Shi Hao. Taking stock of the top 10 golden fingers, the protagonist of Wanjie went crazy. Author, Chirp. Chapter 104. Countless people across the world saw this scene, and their eyes lit up instantly. Now, after all, he met his biological brother and his former rival. By the way, will Shi Yi have a fight with Shi Hao? Before, in the battle between 2 stones, Shi Yi was unconvinced. Now when he meets Shi Hao, can he accept it without a fight? I'm kind of looking forward to the fight between the 2 stones now. Do you think it is possible to destroy the secret realm directly? That's impossible. Now, Shi Yi doesn't know what realm he is in, but according to Shi Hao, it should still be the supreme Dzogchen, right? Even before he is a false god, he is even called a true god. Indeed, Shi Hao was domineering in the lower realm, but now in the upper realm, he was beaten up by various gods, tisk. Alas, isn't this normal? Shi Hao was miserable when a low-level person was beaten by a high-level person, but he also violently killed countless people in the same level and even a higher level. With such strength, he was already a peerless genius, right? So, who looks down on me, Emperor Huangtian? Kill until no one in the world dares to respect you. Tisk tisk. By the way, this Shi Yi has been in the upper world for so long. The girl with double pupils should have taught Shi Yi how to use double pupils, right? How strong is your current strength? It's hard to say, but I feel that the current Shi Yi should be able to fight Shi Hao. With Shi Hao, it was at least a 40-60 situation. Indeed, Shi Yi's chances of winning are not small. After all, he has double pupils and was taught by a girl with double pupils, while Shi Hao has lost his second supreme bone. So what if the supreme bone is gone? Don't forget, Shi Hao directly cultivated the hand of God. Reincarnation also has a true meaning. You don't need to think about it to know that Shi Hao must have a third supreme bone. Yes, plus the 8-9 heavenly skills. Hey, Shi Hao's chances of winning are, let alone great, just great. Shi Yi is growing up, and Shi Hao is also growing up. Who doesn't have an incredible opportunity? At this moment, countless people were discussing. Looking at the picture of Shi Hao, Qin Hao, and Shi Yi gathering together, they were all amazed. Countless people had been looking forward to the scene for a long time. At this time, in the perfect plain, the imperial capital of the Stone Kingdom in the lower realm, Shi Hao squinted his eyes as he looked into the great Dao gold list. Looking at the familiar figure, he narrowed his eyes slightly. There is no doubt that Shi Yi is his old enemy. He had heard before that the girl with double pupils had taken away Shi Yi's body, so he knew that there would be a chance to meet Shi Yi in the future. But I didn't expect to see him in this situation. So, he chuckled and started a fight. Immediately shaking his head, Shi Yi had nothing to worry about. He was on the road to invincibility. He is invincible in the same realm, invincible at the same level, and even across a large realm, he is invincible. 220 He can see that in that period of time for him in the future, the momentum has gathered, and the idea of invincibility has begun to be born. And Shi Yi? He shook his head secretly. He was confident that Shi Yi was no match for him at all. Not now, not in the future. And at the same time, in the upper realm, Shi Yi looked at everything that happened in the Dao Golden List and chuckled. Sure enough, he knew that there was still time for him to meet Shi Hao again. I just didn't expect that during the battle between these 3,000 Daesu geniuses, a fight? He thought that he was not willing to be defeated by Shi Hao before. He was thinking, what will happen when he meets the time in the future? A fight? To win back the field? He was thinking, his eyes flashing brightly, looking at the golden list of the avenue, his expression was filled with uncertainty. At this moment, countless people in the world are paying attention to the reunion of the two stones. At this time, it was seen that in the Dao Golden List, with the reunion of Shi Yi and Shi Hao, the two spoke almost at the same time. It is indeed you who is from Tianyuan State, come on. I knew you wouldn't die in the lower realm so easily. The two said in unison. When Shi Hao was in Alcatraz Island, he heard that someone was defeated at the hands of a man with double eyes. At that time, he guessed that it was Shi Yi. Now it has been confirmed. And Shi Yi has also heard about it. Shi Hao died in the lower realm, but he also guessed that Shi Hao would not die so easily. He believed that there would be a time to meet again in the future. Sure enough, they met now. At this moment, Shi Yi and Shi Hao faced each other from afar, and the two of them suddenly, there seemed to be an invisible field, and the surrounding boulders turned into powder in an instant. The momentum alone was so strong, These two people had reached an incredible level of strength. Obviously, the two wanted to have a fight. Whether it's Shi Yi or Shi Hao, they both want to fight. After all, they are old enemies. If they don't fight, they will regret the grudges of the past. Are you Shi Yi, the man with double eyes? At this time, Qin Hao suddenly spoke. You should call me cousin, Shi Yi said lightly with a gentle smile. Qin Hao raised his eyebrows. The person who was beheaded by my brother also wants me to call you cousin? In this regard. Shi Yi remained calm, his eyes were deep, and he said calmly, it doesn't matter about victory or defeat, whether it is hostile or not, I am indeed your cousin, and you should call me both emotional and rational. However, Qin Hao didn't care so much. I have heard about Chongtong for a long time. If you want to challenge such a person, do you dare to fight me? CFCE, at this moment, Qin Hao's aura changed, he was eager to try, and his fighting spirit was strong. He just wanted to challenge the strongest. When he saw Shi Hao, he wanted to challenge. When he saw Shi Yi, he also wanted to challenge. However, Shi Yi said, you are still young, wait for another 3 years. Now, just stand aside and watch my duel with your brother. At this moment, Qin Hao flew directly into the sky, and his whole body was filled with fighting spirit. There is a divine pattern flashing on the forehead, and the word sin breaks through the clouds. In the same way, Shi Hao also flew into the sky, his hair was erect, his forehead bones flashed with holy light, and his blood collapsed due to sin. Shi Yi was no less generous, his aura was so powerful that it was so terrifying that it was suffocating. In a word, strong. These three people are all incredibly strong and shockingly strong. Three supreme beings. The most important thing is that they are from the same clan and are related. Countless people were dumbfounded when they saw this scene, trembling with horror in their hearts. Even one of them is already great, it is a huge disaster. Now, 3 of them actually popped up. Descendants of sinful blood. The 6th Crown King came to the scene in his spiritual body with his men. Looking at the 3 people, they were all speechless. However, these words fell on the ears of Shi Hao, Qin Hao, and Shi Yi. Aha! At this moment, the 3 people suddenly turned their heads, with evil eyes, and they all looked over there coldly. There were faint signs of the same hatred. Countless people were dumbfounded. The momentum of Shi Hao, Qin Hao, and Shi Yi was too amazing. Just looking at that sin blood, Ben Gaiun knew that the talents of these 3 people were so evil that it was unimaginable. But now, the 3 of them have joined forces. Yes, they have joined forces. After all, they are of the same race and have blood and family ties. If you give it a try, it belongs to your family. Matters, even if it means fighting life or death, are their own business. However, outsiders come over and call them sinners and say they are descendants of sinful blood. What else can they do? Of course they are fighting. Infighting when there are no enemies, once there are enemies, they must share the same hatred. Whether it is Qin Hao, Shi Hao, or Shi Yi, they can at least match a 5-time or 6-time champion. You say, who is the guilty blood? Shi Yi looked at the 6-time champion Ning Chuan opposite him coldly. All 3 of you, 6 Crown King Ning Chuan said and looked at the 3 of them. His eyes were cold. He must be a genius. After 6 lives, he has killed the same level of monks in the world. He has been sleeping since ancient times and has an extraordinary bearing. No matter how horrified he is, but facing the enemy and the strong, he cannot retreat. Does that mean I am also a descendant of sinful blood? Qin Hao sneered, stepped forward, his heart was filled with precious light, his blood was overwhelming, and he had extremely terrifying pressure. Do people who have committed sins and blood also feel honored? Ning Chuan Lengran. He. Shi Hao smiled. Ning Chuan, who do you think you are? Do you need to protect the avenue? Do you really think you represent God's will? For you and others, Our orthodoxy represents God's will and exists specifically to suppress you, the evil descendants of crime and chaos. A subordinate behind Ning Chuan said this. Shi Yi's eyes turned cold. In an instant, his pupils glowed, a terrifying beam of light appeared, and he snorted coldly, "What is sin? What is chaos? Where is our blood unclean? Tell me." Ah! However, the man just touched Shi Yi's eyes and screamed, his face turned pale, as if his soul was about to collapse. Six Crown King Ning Chuan frowned, snorted coldly, and touched his sleeves. The man recovered instantly and hurriedly hid behind him. Behind Ning Chuan. Now, there is nothing left to say. The war is about to break out. At this moment, the six-time champion's hand was as big as a mountain, and he sent it towards the three of them. Shi Yi's double pupils created a new world. Qin Hao's fighting spirit was fierce, and the towering ancient trees intercepted the essence of heaven and earth. Shi Hao punched through the world. The strength of the three of them has reached a terrifying level. Six-time champion Ning Chuan is numb. Whether you can win against one is a question, but now, against three. There is no doubt that this six-time champion, who was so majestic before, was directly sacrificed to blood in the blink of an eye. The six-time champion was able to show off his ruthlessness before, but now, facing three geniuses, he was simply not enough. The six-time crown champion was sacrificed in blood, and the myth of being undefeated was completely shattered. Finally, the ancient cave emerged. The melee was about to break out, and countless people fought. They wanted to beat the dog's brains out for the immortal scriptures in the ancient cave. However, at this moment, the sword energy appeared in the ancient cave and killed countless geniuses in an instant. Countless people were frightened and ran away quickly. However, it was too late. In the end, only a few people survived. This evil nest is a killing plan set up by a certain prodigy. He obtained fortune with the blood of all spirits and cultivated an immortal energy. Immortal energy can only be obtained by surpassing the ancients of all ages, which is extremely difficult. Knowing that immortal energy is the standard for measuring the strong, Shi Yi went to retreat without saying a word. Shi Hao also wanted to obtain immortal energy and enter Guangming City. But unexpectedly, here, I saw Yu Chan's second body again. The key is that there is a blonde man from the Immortal Palace who is showing off his hospitality. What he said is that the Immortal Palace has issued a reward order, and as long as you provide Wang's reward, you can get the reward. Shi Hao smiled. Without saying anything, he just stepped forward and planned to pluck the wool. He said that he could provide clues to Huang, and he only needed 40 holy medicines, 40 holy medicines. This is simply a lion's mouth. However, the blonde man said that he could agree, but secretly waited for Shi Hao to speak, and then killed Shi Hao. Unexpectedly, after getting 40 holy medicines, Shi Hao immediately smiled. He is Huang. He stopped pretending, he showed his cards. The blonde man was numb and shaking with anger. Shi Hao killed him easily, and immediately left with Yu Chan, intending to continue looking for the secluded place of the Immortal Palace. The hatred between the Immortal Palace and him had already been forged when they were in the lower world. No matter what they say today, they have to go on a killing spree. Then, on the isolated island, they found the number one general in the Immortal Palace, the dragon blood ancestral crocodile. To Shi Hao, this crocodile was nothing more than a local chicken and a wago. Within 10 moves, Shi Hao killed it. The most important thing is the countless treasures in this ancient cave. What Shi Hao earned was a lot of money. There are even babies who specialize in opening eyes. After using it, although the eyes did not change like double pupils, the traces of various creatures became extremely clear. It has to be said that Shi Hao is simply a bad guy. He goes everywhere to find the retreat places for the descendants of the Immortal Palace, or kill them. Or, while others are enlightened, forcefully interrupt them. He really had a life and death feud with the Immortal Palace. But Shihao didn't care at all. It was just a life and death feud. Wasn't it settled long ago? Of course, at this time, Shihao met Cao Yasheng again. Well, there is also a rabbit following Cao Yasheng. Shihao and Cao Yasheng are worthy of their virtues, and their mouths are full of oil after eating barbecue. The little rabbit stared. Have some fun. Shihao also knew that it would not be a problem if things continued like this. Next, he needs to retreat, and he must not cultivate immortal energy. Soon, Shihao took Cao Yasheng, Little Rabbit, and Yueshan back to Qingxi Road to continue practicing. After 3,000 paths of burning true self, I finally cultivated the first path of immortal energy. But there are certain risks in seclusion in this place, and it may lead to inexplicable things. Last time, Shihao led to an older version of himself. But this time, an ancient lamp came slowly, emitting light and an ominous aura, shrouding 100 feet above Shihao's head. Sure enough, in the grey mist, another person appeared, holding a square-shaped halberd, with overwhelming momentum, and came to kill. Fortunately, Shihao finally killed it. The dangers therein have their own celestial energy to replenish their bodies. However, at this moment, a big crack appeared in the void. The key is that Shihao also saw a ship in the black crack. A black boat. Shihao's face turned ugly. According to legend, when crossing the void, there are 3 things you are most afraid of encountering. One of them is this black ancient ship. Encountering this means death is imminent. Immediately, he was teleported directly into the black ancient ship. Shihao's face was really dark. After some exploration, his face became more and more surprised. Because here, he saw the images of the past and heard the so-called sinful blood. It was an ancient city, like a small world in the world. There were shouts of killing rising to the sky. Where the strong can catch the stars and the moon. The battle is breaking out, and countless strong men are falling. Then, Shihao saw several people, supporting each other, walking toward the ancient city over there under the setting sun. Those 7 people were like invincible kings. They stepped on endless corpses, fought to the extreme, returned to the ancient city, and guarded it again. But soon, another terrifying creature came to kill, and there was an endless fairy light, which was extremely terrifying. The 7 people roared and blasted towards the enemy. In that city, there were countless ragged, unkempt, skinny old men and young people, as well as girls with patched animal skins. Everyone climbed to the top of the city to join the battle. Shihao's heart was shaken. He saw the holy light on those people's foreheads rising into the sky, uniting together to smash the clouds, piercing the sky, and branding the word sin. The picture gradually blurred, and Shihao vaguely saw a king falling down. We are fighting to seal the world. But I can't hold on anymore. What about the latecomers? Covenant. The remaining 6 kings murmured, which was particularly desolate. Shihao was in a daze, and he finally understood the voice he heard last time, and what the so-called guarding the border meant. Shihao subconsciously clenched his fists, and his face was extremely ugly. He can't wait to rush over and help them now. He wants to know the truth now, wants to know everything. Taking stock of the top 10 golden fingers, the protagonist of Wanjie went crazy. Author, Chirp. Chapter 105. Shihao began to search for the truth in the black ancient ship. And this so-called ancient truth. Once upon a time, the 7 supreme beings of the Stone Clan entered the wilderness to protect all living beings in the world and charged at the forefront. The top masters suffered heavy casualties, and some of the royal clan leaders fled before the battle. Only the 7 supreme masters of the Stone Clan persisted in fighting until the last moment. Seeing that the 7 supreme beings had not returned, the royal clan leader who had fled back immediately made up lies, slandered the Stone Clan, and determined that the Stone Clan was guilty. All the descendants of the Stone Clan were descendants of sin blood, and divided up the rich heritage of the Stone clan. This is the truth. This is the truth those guys have been trying to hide. At this moment, Shi Hao's eyes were blazing with fighting intent, and he vowed to enter the border wilderness to participate in this war. Moreover, after getting another Daluo sword fetus, he was sent back to Qingxi Road again. And at this time, in the perfect plain, countless people looked at this so-called truth, and they were all dumbfounded. Is this the truth? Is this what is called sin? On the front line, there are still soldiers fighting bloody battles, but behind the scenes, there are bullies slandering the descendants of heroes. Angry. At this moment, no matter it was the upper realm or the lower realm, all the Stone tribe people, all the so-called Sin blood descendants, were all angry. Within Sin state, a heaven-shaking rage erupted, and a terrifying killing intent emerged above Sin state, stirring up the storm. They are obviously the descendants of heroes, but they are slandered by those dogs, who slander them as the descendants of sinners. Damn it, deserve to be killed. Countless people's eyes turned red instantly. They have been slandered for so many years. Their ancestors were obviously heroes, but they became sinners. It's heartbreaking. It's so chilling. Their ancestors were still guarding the border, but their descendants were slandered and slandered by those with ulterior motives. It was really hard to calm down. If it weren't for the Dao Gold list, they don't know how long it will take for them to be cleared of their grievances. Nowadays, countless people are red-eyed and wish they could kill for 9 days now to kill all those who slandered them. They even want to go to the border wilderness to fight for their ancestors and march side by side with their ancestors. The wilderness there is so tragic. Countless people feel grievances and look at the Avenue Gold list with choked and sad eyes. At this time, in the lower realm of the perfect plane, in the imperial capital of the Stone Kingdom. So that's it, sin. Shi Hao's eyes were cold. Before, when he saw sins and blood, he thought that his ancestors were really guilty. He also thought about washing away the sins of his ancestors. But I didn't expect it to be like this. Everything is slandered. Everything is made up. His eyes were deep and cold, he looked up to the upper world, and snorted coldly one day, I will kill all you traitor immortals. He, the Stone clan, has been a hero since ancient times, and is a being who guards the border, but he is slandered as crime. How can he not be angry? How not to be angry? He clenched his fists subconsciously, full of fighting spirit. At this moment, countless people in all the worlds looked at everything that happened in the Dao Golden List, and they were all amazed. So that's it? Sure enough, there are some bullies that cannot be defeated by external enemies, just because of internal friction. There are so many people like this in all the worlds, haha, but slandering heroes, slandering the descendants of heroes, and embezzling everything from heroes is simply a traitor. What a traitor! Sure enough, there are always 2 rats and 2 moths in this world. Damn it, deserve to be killed. Haha, I thought the sins on Shi Hao and others' heads were real sins. It turns out that this is the real great honor. The blood of sins can increase the terrifying strength and bless one's body. It is a great honor. Tisk, come to think of it, in this world, once upon a time, the meaning of sin should not be the sin we understand. It was only because those guys deliberately distorted the facts that sin was equated with evil. Laughing to death, these guys are just waiting to be liquidated by Shi Hao. Countless people were discussing, their eyes were cold. At the same time, countless people looked at the Avenue Gold list again. But what they saw in the picture. Shi Hao returned to the Bluestone Road and killed some people who wanted to rob the big people. Luo Jiantai's guys. He also told Cao Yasheng and others about what he saw and heard in the ancient ship. Cao Yasheng is indeed well informed, well, his master is well informed. He told the previous owner of the Daluo Jianfei. The previous owner of the Daluo Jianfei was an invincible genius and a 5-crown champion. However, he disappeared in the end. Unexpectedly, he was on the ancient ship. Immediately, he disappeared. And roughly talked about the border wilderness. If the border wilderness is really broken, then the troubled times will really come. The war will spread to the entire 3,000 states, with smoke everywhere and wars everywhere. In this world, there are many things it may not take long before there will be no peace. These wars have lasted for countless years, and in this era, they will definitely be more tragic. Shi Hao firmly stated that he will definitely go to the borderlands and participate in the war. He saw too many. The ancestors were still fighting bloody battles at the front, guarding the border. It was okay if he didn't know. Now that he knew, he absolutely had to go. Immediately, at this time, Cao Yisheng suddenly said, "I heard that the old guy who is the protector of the celestial race wanted to deduce everything about you, but in the end, he came to a conclusion that made him vomit blood, saying that you do not belong to this entire ancient history. How do you still know about the celestial clan?" Shi Hao looked at the little fat man in surprise. "My master said," Cao Yisheng muttered. Shi Hao sneered. He really didn't have a good face towards this ungrateful existence of the celestial race. When the time comes, we must kill the human race in this world and turn it upside down. Does not belong to this entire ancient world. At this time, Little Rabbit looked at Shi Hao and said subconsciously, "Don't tell me, you really left the upper world and transcended? What kind of battle are you going to participate in alone?" "That's not how I understand that sentence, but anyway, even my master didn't understand it." Cao Yisheng shook his head and said. "What messy language, the future is full of uncertainty, can he be sure? Everything can be changed." Shi Hao shook his head and said. "What else did your master say?" King I asked. "He said that the future is too cruel. There is a person who does not belong to the past or the present. He will come to the 3,000 states in this life and ask for help from a person who can eat," Cao Yisheng said. When Shi Hao heard this, he smiled and said, "I am very good at eating, how can you beg me?" Immediately, he shook his head again and curled his lips and said, "But didn't you just say that I don't belong to this ancient history, contradictory?" Cao Yisheng said with confidence, "That's a person who paid a huge price to send here, but I don't know who he will turn to for help." "Don't tell me, this is what your master said too." The little rabbit looked at him sideways. "Is your master a magician or a lunatic? Have you been imagining and talking nonsense all day?" Godstone also muttered. When Cao Yisheng heard this, he was a little surprised and said, "How did you know? My master has become more and more crazy in recent years. I was so scared that I didn't dare to stay with him. He almost buried me once, saying that was my fate and return." As soon as these words came out, everyone was stunned. What kind of master is this? He is just a magic stick, but he is so righteous in killing relatives. Hearing again, the little fat man said angrily, "The most annoying thing is that he also said that if you don't bury me, someone who can eat will bury me sooner or later. The separation of life and death will only increase the sadness of that person." At this time, everyone present was speechless. Silence for the little fat man. It is really unfortunate to have such a master. "So, you will end up badly, how about I help you now and bury you?" The little rabbit stared at Cao Yisheng and laughed. But unexpectedly, the little fat man said proudly, "You are wrong. My master said that my blessings are boundless. After I wake up, I will climb out of the ground. Destined to live forever, one day we will meet again." Obviously, neither Shi Hao nor anyone else took the little fat man's words to heart. He thought that the little fat man was playing tricks. At this time, countless people in the world saw this scene, but they were amazed. "Oh, who is this little fat guy's master? Such a great guy? Did he really guess it? Not to mention, Shi Hao will arbitrarily rule for eternity in the future, ascend and fly away, and will not be in this world. It is really true." By the way, who is Cao Yasheng's master? So awesome. Are there so many prophecies? So awesome. It's like really knowing the future. Well, the guy who said he was very good at eating should be the Shihao he was talking about, right? Shihao is very good at eating, it must be Shihao. But, what does it mean that a person who does not belong to the past or the present will come to the 3000 states in this life, to seek help from Shihao? Who is this person? It doesn't belong to the past or the present, so it belongs to the future? Cross time from the future and come to this world? Will there be such a person looking for help? That should be something in the future. After all, Shihao is still far from being able to suppress everything. However, how special is the little fat man's master? Nonsense, can you talk about all this? By the way, it seems that I have never seen Cao Yasheng's master. Anyway, Cao Yasheng's master is very powerful, and he's also a great master. At this time, countless people were discussing. At the same time, in the world of Jishan, this Cao Yasheng's master is even better than me. Duanda looked at the golden list of the avenue and saw the familiar little fat man muttering there, and he was also amazed. He thought that he was already a magic stick enough, but he didn't expect that in all the worlds, there is someone better than him and the gods. The existence of the stick. Who is Cao Yasheng's master? If there is a chance, he really wants to meet him. Whoosh! At this moment, he saw a green light flying past again, followed by countless powerful beings chasing it. Duanda's eyes lit up, and without saying a word, he also flew up. Then, he saw that the boy he had often robbed before was standing there stupidly, being interrogated by those powerful people. I checked again and again, and then, they were all gone. Oh! Duan stepped forward with a smile, looked at Yefan, and said with a smile, "Boy, the Taoist master is here to help you suppress the evil." As he said that, he took the green copper block in Yefan's hand and checked it over and over. Then, the more he checked, the more he frowned, then curled his lips and threw the broken green copper block on the ground. "Bah, what rubbish! Worse than what I gave you," Duanda was indignant. He thought this kid had picked up some treasure again. But Yefan's face was dark. Did this damn fat man leak something? When Duanda saw this, he rolled his eyes and said nothing. He ran away. Seeing Duanda leave, Yefan curled his lips and reached out to pick up the green copper block. Then, whoosh, just when Yefan was surprised, the green copper block just slipped into his sea of suffering. Well, Yefan was surprised. Damn, is this thing really a treasure? No one else took a fancy to it, not even the fat man with vicious eyes. As a result, this thing got into his own misery. For a moment, he felt a little bit guilty. Good guy, he understands very well the principle that a man is not guilty but carries a treasure with him. As soon as his mind moves, he wants to run away. There is no way to watch movies here, I have to find another place to watch the golden list. Damn. Looking at Shihao's various treasures, he was drooling with envy. He could obviously pick up treasures, just because he was not strong enough. If he were strong enough, he would want to blow that damn fat man's head off. Whoosh, however, at this moment, Duanda appeared again. When he saw Yefan, he immediately shouted, "Boy, where was the green copper block earlier?" The reincarnation of ancient and modern times has passed into the hands of Shihao. Yefan curled his lips and said, "Gun gun gun, you are starting to become a magician, right? Hurry, hand over that thing. The water here is very deep and you can't control it. Only by leaving it to Master Tao can you control it." Duanda said in an extremely affirmative tone. Yefan curled his lips and did not leave. He leaned on the stone, looked at the Avenue Gold list, and said with a smile, "Lost it? You?" Duanda's face changed. "Now, over there in the pond, I just lost it. If you jump down now, you might still find it, Yefan said with a smile. He leaned on the stone leisurely, pointed out the country, and looked at the Daojin list, looking completely uninterested and unconcerned. You kid, what the hell, holy shit, Master Dao hunts for treasures all day long, but he doesn't want to, and sometimes he catches an eye. Do you know that bronze piece, ugh, on the side? The unscrupulous Taoist priest Duanda puffed his beard and glared. Seeing Duanda looking like this, Yefan smiled even more happily. At this time, countless people in the Dao Golden List watched as Shihao cultivated the second immortal energy. Immediately, after overcoming the thunder tribulation, he cultivated the third immortal energy. After that, Shihao found the branches of the Willow God in the Soul Clan's place and learned the Willow God's method. Immortal Gu finally appeared. Shihao even won 800 games in a row, took the lead in entering the immortal ancient creation land, and obtained the Jade Box. He went into seclusion again, tempered his Tao and body with Saint Wood, and finally entered the Holy Sacrifice realm. Shihao successfully overcame the tribulation and obtained the 5-color Thunder Tribulation liquid. At this time, he was extremely powerful and had a faint tendency to dominate. The immortal ancient trial is over. The flower of the avenue sends the monks back to the upper realm. Countless people coveted Shihao's treasures and wanted to kill him. But obviously, Chi Daolin doesn't allow it. Chi Daolin made a domineering appearance and fought against all the major leaders. The fight was so hard that it was hard to separate, and the golden willow leaves were floating down. Willow God reappears in the world. What a giant, what a leader! Lu Shen, with his own power, forcibly suppressed and killed, with terrifying power that shook the 9 heavens and 10 earthworks. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Taking stock of the top 10 golden fingers, the protagonist of Wanjie went crazy. Author, Chirp. Chapter 106. Lu Shen's strength has reached a terrifying level. A piece of grass can kill the sun, moon, and stars. A leaf is the sword intention of the saint. However, it is obvious that this is not Lu Shen's true form. Those people guessed well. No one who entered the primordial gate could come out alive. This is indeed not Lu Shen's true body, but an existence manifested by a section of Lu Shen's torso plus the will to fight. But just like that, those giants were still suppressed, and they had no ability to resist at all. This is Lu Shen. Invincible in the world. Lu Shen's strength is no longer something these guys can covet. Now that things have happened, Shihao finally has time to go find Huo Ling-er. He owed Huo Ling-er too much, so he came to Huo Ling-er just to marry her. And at this moment, a strong man from outside the territory walked out of the passage. During the immortal era, the world was shattered into 9 heavens and 10 earths. 9 heavens and 10 earths together formed 19 small worlds, and the 9 heavens were far more powerful than the 10 earths. As for the 3000 days Hu, it is just one of the 10 places. The most important thing is that these 3000 days Hu are still the most declining places. The chaos is coming, and the strongest people plan to select a group of the strongest geniuses from the 3000 states and send them to Tianshan Academy for further study. This powerful person from outside the region came here to select talents from 3000 states. And this test is to cross the no man's land and reach the imperial city alive. And the one who was selected was the 6-time champion Ning Chuan. Previously, Shihao and others killed Ning Chuan's spiritual body. Although they had enmity, they were still geniuses from the 3000 days Hu. Even the freaks who were 6,000 years ago came from the 3000 days Hu. So, he was chosen. This Tianshan Academy is also very interesting. Various classics, supreme treasures, and notes of immortals can even be used for retreat in the immortal cave. There are also cultivation methods that do not belong to this era. It is impossible to say that there are descendants of real immortals competing with them. This is Tianshan Academy. However, whether they can reach the imperial city depends on their abilities. In the no man's land, Shi Hao entered a purple bamboo forest. In a blink of an eye, the stars moved and Shi Hao entered the ancient era of immortality. This is the immortal king of 6 paths of reincarnation and Master Wu ending breaking through the heavens, allowing Shi Hao to witness the ancient immortality after hundreds of millions of years. Here, Shi Hao finally met friends such as Xiao Kailan and Xian Huang. We talk about Tao all day long and have a lot of fun talking with each other. Shi Hao has 3 immortal energies, and the immortal phoenix has also cultivated 3 immortal energies. Although Shi Hao is very strong, at least he is not weaker than some geniuses here. However, when he looked here, he saw the master of the 6 paths of reincarnation, the true Lord who was about to transform into a true dragon, and the sun in the sky turned into a true golden crow. For a moment, Shi Hao's scalp went numb. I just feel like a short-sighted country bumpkin. This is immortal goo. Immediately, he saw his immortal friends fighting against powerful enemies and falling into a pool of blood one after another. Only then did he suddenly come back to his senses. It's not that I really traveled to ancient times, but I witnessed it. Just like a passerby. It took him a long time to regain his composure and then set out on the right path again. Finally, after going through many hardships, he finally arrived at the imperial city. Here, Shi Hao saw more acquaintances. Cao Yushen, Yueshen's secondary and main bodies, Dragon Girl, etc. are all in this place. Of course, not only these people, but also Shi Yi and Qin Hao are here. Tenshin Academy has relaxed its requirements, and many people who could not enter Tenshin Academy have entered. However, at this moment, a sudden change occurred. As Shi Hao walked, everything around him seemed as if time had stood still, the space had solidified, and he had entered a wonderful realm. Then, he found that he was walking on a black passage. He wanted to go back, but it was too late. In the blink of an eye, things have changed. He found that he had completely left the ancient battlefield and entered an unknown area. Where is this? Shi Hao was a little confused, and his face was full of differences. The surrounding visibility was reduced, and black fog was floating. There was no vegetation in the mountains and rivers, only endless white bones. Shi Hao frowned, and subconsciously began to move around. Then, I saw an artifact. It was a round tripod with 3 legs and 2 ears. Shi Hao was shocked. Because this was not the first time he had seen this tripod. But before, all he saw was the shadow of this tripod, and now, but saw the actual cauldron. Shi Hao looked at the cauldron carefully, but what he saw was that the cauldron was stained with blood, with black and yellow mother energy flowing, exuding an astonishing and terrifying aura. The cauldron hung motionless in mid-air. Shi Hao's heart was pounding and he was a little nervous. What on earth was this cauldron going to do? What news was sent to him? Who made that cauldron? Shi Hao didn't know about this. He only knew that the cauldron vibrated just slightly. There was a terrifying aura vibrating, as if it were destroying the world. It was very strong. At this time, Shi Hao took a deep breath and asked in a deep voice, "You came to see me? Why?" This cauldron exudes Guanhui, echoes with immortal gold, exudes the mother energy of heaven and earth, and becomes more and more mysterious. There seems to be a figure rising in the cauldron, but soon, the figure disappears again. Immediately, there seemed to be a sound in the cauldron. "I came early," the voice was trance-like, as if it carried the vicissitudes of eternity, a kind of loneliness, and a hint of helplessness and exhaustion. Came early? What does this mean? Shi Hao was shocked and doubtful, and then asked quickly, "Who are you?" However, this time, the cauldron was silent, or maybe he wanted to say something, but was stopped. Shi Hao was shocked, because, he saw the thunder and lightning raging in the sky, and saw the thousands of lightning. Ting rushed towards the cauldron in an instant, but he didn't want to be directly absorbed by the cauldron. In the cauldron, black and yellow mother energy flourished again, filling the void, erasing all the big cracks, as if cutting off cause and effect. Hao was frightened. He remembered that unless something happened to change the cause and effect and change the universe, it would be impossible for such a vision and thunder disaster to occur. In other words, their few previous conversations had already caused the world to tremble, seeming to destroy everything. He was surprised, and then asked, "Where are you from?" "It doesn't belong to the past, it doesn't belong to the present," the voice came from the cauldron. However, just because of these words, the changes between heaven and earth became even more astonishing. Tribulation thunder fell one after another, as if to completely destroy the cauldron. However, boom, the cauldron glowed, and all of a sudden, countless patterns appeared on the cauldron, like array diagrams, one after another flying up, refining the power of the supreme tribulation thunder in this sky-sealing land. Shi Hao was amazed. This, what the hell, is he an immortal king? After a long time, he calmed down, thinking about the man's words. He was confused again. It didn't belong to the past, it didn't belong to the present. In other words, he came from the future? From the future. Although Shi Hao already had a definite idea, he still couldn't help but ask like this. Na Ding didn't answer anymore, as if he acquiesced, and also seemed like he couldn't answer. Shi Hao's scalp was numb. If it's true it's the future, so what changes will happen in the future? You want to ask him for help? Yes, you are asking for help. The future is scary. Even the owner of this tripod needs to ask for help. The owner of this tripod must be the immortal king, right? That kind of thing. He didn't believe in the terrifying strength, even if it wasn't the immortal king. What happened that made the immortal king ask for help? At this time, Na Ding didn't speak anymore, and looked like, "What are you afraid of?" Everything can only be guessed by Shi Hao himself. If I were in the future and went to the past, what would I want to do? He said to himself, if I go back to the past, I just want to understand the enemies, understand why the immortal era has come to an end, and what methods can be used to control those enemies. He put his own heart on behalf of his to guess what the other party wanted to do. Suddenly, his expression condensed. Could it be said that our era has been destroyed? Reaching the end? All kinds of creatures have died, and another era will begin in the future? Want to come here to find out the situation? Shi Hao was in a daze, a little melancholy. Is it possible that they will still follow the same path of the first era? Will they fail in this life after all? Shi Hao sighed. Where will I be in the future? Are you not showing up anymore? Is this the end of this era? He clenched his fists subconsciously. If the future is like this, what about their era? There is a lack of hope. But I do not believe. Shi Hao's eyes turned cold and he said in a deep voice, I will not die. It is necessary to transcend immortality and defeat all enemies of ancient and modern times. At this moment, the cauldron vibrated, as if it was joyful and resonating with him. Seeing this, Shi Hao asked again, what on earth are you going to tell me? Whether it's asking for help or communicating, this tripod seems to want to tell him something, but for some reason, it just can't be said clearly. In that battle, I want to see you. Suddenly, such a voice came from the cauldron, as if it was resisting the rules in the dark. Buzz. The next second, Shi Hao's whole body shook violently. He seemed to have seen a mysterious scene. At the same time, the heaven and earth intertwined, endless rules came, and thunder and lightning, accompanied by fairy energy, began to surge crazily. At this time, countless people in all the worlds looked at this scene, and they were all a little surprised. This tripod again? Gee, it's true that a strong man from the future came to see Shi Hao. Sure enough, what the little fat man said before was not without purpose. I just don't know who this strong man is. What do you want to do with Shihao? It's early, is that okay? However, by the way, the owner of this cauldron is really strong. Shihao is already strong enough now, but when the cauldron shakes slightly, it feels like destroying the world. It's scary. In this future, what kind of terrible thing happened that caused a being suspected to be an immortal king to come to the past to ask for help? Are you really not afraid of the rules of time and space, or the annihilation of the Great Road? Strong, really strong. Fellow Taoists, do you think there is a possibility that this is actually a message sent by Shihao from the future to Shihao now? Tisk, don't mention it, it's really possible. Impossible, absolutely impossible. If it was really the future Emperor Huangtian who called Shihao now, Shihao should be familiar with this cauldron and even be able to control it to some extent. Now it seems that it is obviously not the future Shihao. Then who is this future strong man? What terrible things will happen in the future? By the way, what did Shihao see? Countless people were discussing, and were deeply shocked by this scene. At this time, in the world of Jishan. Well. Yafan looked at the round tripod with 3 legs and 2 ears in the golden list of the avenue, and was slightly startled. This tripod, it feels so familiar? Isn't this the kind of tripod from ancient times? Round tripod, 2 ears, 3 legs, Tao gives birth to 1, 1 gives birth to 2, 2 gives birth to 3, 3 gives birth to all things. Hey, Yafan's eyes lit up. He has a direction. He needs a sacrificial weapon, so why not use the sacred pattern to make it look like this cauldron? This round tripod simply coincides with the Great Road and the Way of Heaven. Moreover, it was suspected to be a sacrificial object for the powerful immortal king. He copied it over and there was no problem at all. Only. Taoist master is here again, a loud laugh sounded. Yafan's eyes went dark. Gun, I don't want to see you again. At the same time, in the Holy Ruins world. This thing makes my heart palpitate a little bit. Chu Feng was a little surprised when he looked at the round tripod in the golden list of Dao Dao. This thing looked very much like the round tripod in ancient times. Hey, tell me, is there a possibility that the powerful giant in the future is me, and I ask Shihao from the past for help? Chu Feng looked at the little scalper and smiled. Just you? Ah, Huang Niu smiled mockingly and looked sideways at Chu Feng, his face full of contempt. What's wrong with me? Can't I become a strong person? Chu Feng snorted. 3.2 Who can say for sure about the future? As for whether their world has any connection with that perfect plane, it is obviously connected. But, what is the specific situation? I do not know. At this time, it was seen that in the picture. Shihao saw a picture. The picture was very blurry, he could only vaguely see a little bit. After exploring, there was nothing more. Because, just this one corner of the picture has caused the heaven and earth to tremble, trying to destroy this cauldron. If this cauldron hadn't been so tyrannical and terrifying, it would have been destroyed long ago. Carrying hope, but in the end it cannot tell me everything. Let me guess slowly. Shihao looked at the cauldron and sighed. He had already seen a corner of the future. It was a lonely life, a life of desolation, alone with the divine way. This was Shihao's ending. Everything ceased to exist, even Lu Shen died, turned into a piece of charcoal, behind Shihao, and Xiao, sitting cross-legged with his back to him. Is this the end? Shihao clenched his fists subconsciously. He wanted to get the answer from this tripod, but the tripod fell silent again. Shihao's eyes were filled with uncertainty. There were endless speculations in his mind. He didn't believe it was true. He wants to rely on himself and he wants to change the future. Buzz, the next second, the cauldron broke through the air and disappeared directly in front of Shihao's eyes. He said that he came early, and the person he wanted to see was not the me now. There is no doubt that the me in the future will be very powerful. Shi Hao understood this. Immediately, Shi Hao disappeared directly along the crack. However, the place where he appeared was not at his original location. Here, on the other side of the world, he had arrived in the enemy's territory. Taking stock of the top 10 golden fingers, the protagonist of Wanjie went crazy. Author, Chirp. Chapter 107. At this time, countless people saw Shi Hao entering the enemy's territory. Shi Hao talked to the people here calmly. However, the news he received made him extremely calm. The human race here all believes that they are the masters of the 9 heavens and 10 earths. Now they have left their homes and been driven out of their homes by the devil. This is completely contrary to Shi Hao's understanding. He once believed that these people were intruders and they were victims of the invasion. They believe that the immortal is a demon, but the people here respect it as their savior. Shi Hao was a little confused. He didn't know which world was weaving lies, and he didn't know what the historical truth was. He spent months looking through ancient history, but still couldn't find the truth. Finally, the cauldron appeared again and teleported him to the gate of Tianshan Academy. However, in the blink of an eye, he was bought into the immortal Wang family as a slave. Shi Hao is truly miserable and suffering. In this life, I have experienced almost everything. He was also bought as a slave from the Taishu ancient mine. Fortunately, he practiced seclusion in this place, and cultivated a stream of immortal energy into the flower of the avenue, and the fruit of the path turned into his past body. The sound of the great avenue resounded in the ancient cave. Shi Hao was so fascinated by it that he directly cultivated the 6 paths of reincarnation heavenly art. Shi Hao finally left this place and went to Tianshan Academy. However, because of his lateness, Tianshan Academy refused Shi Hao entry. However, there are also disciples who select followers. Wang 11 took a fancy to Shi Hao at first glance, but instead of letting Shi Hao become a follower, he invited Shi Hao to enter Tianshan Academy as a Taoist friend. This caused dissatisfaction among Wang 11's followers. Shi Hao's successive victories naturally attracted a lot of true blood, and he used this true blood to make the second flower of the avenue bloom. Immediately, everyone saw the ancient battlefield, the Wang family. Meng Tianzheng, the elder of Tianshan Academy, accepted Shi Hao as his disciple. Shi Hao was very strong and had disciples from both houses come to compete. Shi Hao had defeated all his opponents. The elders of both deans wanted to accept Shi Hao as his disciple, but Shi Hao refused one by one and stayed in Tianshan Academy. After that, Shi Hao continued to practice, and actually compressed the only cave to the extreme, achieving the yin and yang divine diagram. Under the guidance of Meng Tianzheng, he continued to temper his body and became the first person in ancient and modern times. Finally, Shi Hao used himself as a seed and finally entered the virtual realm. In the blink of an eye, it's the secret realm again, accepting the sky-horned ant as his younger brother. Obtain the Sutra of Immortality, and the Wang family is involved. Meng Tianzheng is invincible and wants to destroy the Wang family. However, at this moment, news came that shocked the whole world. The border gates collapsed, and strong men from foreign lands appeared. At this moment, any internal friction is meaningless. The war started, and countless strong men went to the borderlands. The strong men from the foreign land could not break the world barrier for the time being, so they agreed to select 10 people from the younger generation to fight. On the other side of the foreign land, Snake Yaksha was the first to fight. His body is terrifying, he can shake immortal weapons, his wings vibrate, and he can make the void collapse. His strength is so powerful that it is simply unbelievable. The first person to fight was a man named Xian Kun. This Xian Kun is also very strong, and can be regarded as one of the Tianjiao disciples. However, this snake Yaksha turned his tail into a spear, pierced Xian Kun's chest directly, and broke his heart. He lost the first game, and it wasn't just the first game, the second game, the third game, the fourth game, they lost one after another, they all lost. The strong men from 9 heavens and 10 earths looked so ugly. On the other side, there was even more cynicism. Shi Hao finally became angry, strode forward, the flames rose, and directly killed the mantis monster. Shi Hao looked coldly at the so-called strong men in the foreign land, and then he killed 3 people in a row. He even threw all the beheaded ones into Dali and cooked them. Angry, the other side sent someone again. And Shi Hao, even more powerful, killed 6 more people. Even if someone cheats and kills with ancestral blood, Shi Hao will directly pierce the woman's eyebrows as soon as the great lotus sword comes out. It can be said that Shi Hao's strength has surpassed the invincible opponents of his generation. In this battle, Shi Hao definitely took the lead. Next. Bian Huang was in a hurry again. Now, it is no longer a small fight, but a real war. He didn't know how long this battle would take, and he was very worried about Huo Ling. But he had no choice, he couldn't go back at all. He only hoped that Huo Ling would be well. Countless people went to the imperial city and in front of the Copper Palace. The bell rang, and it spread tens of thousands of miles away. Elderly people from all ethnic groups came one after another to take care of their descendants. But no one from Shi Hao, Shi Yi, Qin Hao, or Cao Yasheng came to respond. Certain ethnic groups couldn't help but laugh. There were people in Ningchuan to pick him up, but no one picked up Shi Hao. Cao was sour, thinking that Ningchuan, the 6-time champion, was not simple. Haha, aren't those the 3 brothers of the Stone Clan? Sure enough, no one came to pick her up. At this time, someone laughed and said, "Who, what do you mean?" Qin Hao couldn't hold his breath, snorted loudly, and began to look for the speaker. At this time, he saw that Wang Changhe of the Wang family sneered and looked at Shi Hao. Well, it turns out that this junior is a remnant of the Stone Clan, a sin-blooded person. Descendants, but in recent years, they have dared to make love with each other in the Ark of the 9 Heavens, and they are arrogant. Tisk, in recent years, I have discovered that there is a big problem if the heels are not straight. Some people sneered. These words even attracted mocking looks from the people around them. Descendants of sin blood. They are all descendants of sin blood. Why do you say that we are descendants of sinful blood? Which of your eyes can see that our ancestors have made great mistakes? Qin Hao was not convinced and shouted angrily. Some things have long been concluded, not to mention that many people here now know that some ethnic groups have made unforgivable mistakes. Someone sneered and mocked. Many people know what there is to say about the sin blood lineage. Wang Changhe was also there to raise the fire. The Wang family, because they had previously coveted Shi Hao's immortal sutra, finally, Meng Tianzheng appeared, and even all the powerful men appeared, wanting to destroy the Wang family. As a result, a war was about to break out, and they still had some thoughts. Use, then, send him to the frontier. This matter started because of Shi Hao. Naturally, they didn't have a good look on Shi Hao, and they would mock him when they needed to. Seeing that Qin Hao was about to argue, Shi Hao stopped him. What is there to say to these people? As a criminal who was sent to the frontier, how dare you talk about others? Shi Hao looked coldly and naturally responded. Shi Yi also spoke. That's right. The former prisoner who was exiled here is a real sinner. How can he have the nerve to criticize others while serving here? The 3 of you said something to each other. Wang Changhe's face was all blue and purple. Both sides made all kinds of ridicule because of the crime. Ning Chuan also looked down upon Shi Hao and others, and also looked down on Shi Hao and others. For the descendants of sin blood. However, at this moment, Ye Qingxian appeared. He came to meet Shi Hao and others. Ye Qingxian was already familiar with Shi Hao and others, so she was naturally fearless. Moreover, Ye Qingxian's strength very strong. Many people in this imperial pass knew Ye Qingxian. When those people saw Yechingxian, they were still taunting Shihao and others. Then, Yechingxian became angry. The terrifying momentum suddenly swinging, suppressing those people in an instant, the terrifying strength is simply unimaginable. This Yechingxian is also very mysterious, and seems to know many secrets. The specific origin of Yechingxian is not very clear. Soon, Yechingxian took Shihao and others to the location of the Stone Clan in the Imperial City. Because of the name of sin and blood, the Stone Clan was humiliated and bullied. Now, there are less than 1,000 people, and they are all old, young, women and children. He was furious and vowed that one day, he would completely wash away the sins of the Stone Clan. Outside the Imperial City, there was a sky abyss that connected to the sky, blocking immortals from foreign lands from crossing the border. It was very useful in this era when there were no true immortals, blocking foreign lands. After that, Shihao was invited to participate in some genius discussion meeting. In the end, he only gave up after killing one member of the Jin family. Immediately, everyone saw that Shihao was sucked into the immortal ancient battlefield. He was holding a spear and fighting bloody battles in all directions. He traveled through 10 places and reached the 9 heavens. However, at this moment, more enemies appeared. These were all descendants of the Imperial clan. No matter how strong Shihao was, he would never be able to defeat 4 hands with 2 fists. He was violent. The bombing and killing also stained the gown with blood. There was no way, in the end, I could only detonate the only cave in the body. The yin and yang embraced each other and turned into a divine disk, and life and death depended on each other to evolve the innate path, forming a Tai Chi-like sea of wheels. Shihao finally succeeded in overcoming the tribulation, and the thunder pool falling from the sky. After drinking the thunder tribulation liquid, the immortal sutra in Shihao's body started to circulate on its own, and his whole body exuded a golden luster. Shihao became more and more tyrannical, and jealousy arose in the hearts of the Wang family. They wished they could kill Shihao now, and then, he released 3 thunder spirits, intending to kill Shihao. In response, Shihao naturally had the immortal sutra running, and the runes flashed, killing the Wang family in an instant. Now Shihao's strength has finally reached a stronger level. There are also various good things that the Wang family has given to apologize, and their strength is no weaker than those of higher realms. After leaving seclusion, they are fighting on the front line, surrounded by immortal light, and their fists are as bright as divine rainbows. The top 10 masters from foreign lands he even came to fight with Shihao. Shihao was not afraid of this and easily killed many young masters. Shihao went on a killing spree, killing hundreds of strong men, and then escaped far away. Go. At this time, I saw you again, and the scene changed. Shihao was chased by the powerful people from the foreign land because some guys in the Imperial Pass collaborated with the enemy, leading to Shihao's location. Shihao fought back with all his strength, and relied on the thunder tribulation liquid to survive. He barely survived, but he was still seriously injured. So, while the Golden Bull was fighting outside, he sneaked into the lair and found the immortal golden liquid. Immortal aura poured in, Shihao recovered quickly, and the 3 things on his head. The top golden flower of the avenue is full of vitality, and the middle one has given birth to a living being. The flower of the avenue has given birth to a living being. This is already the second one. The first living being is completely different from the second one. The first one seemed to be separated from Shihao by eternity, and was born before the creation of the world. This second one is closely related to Shihao and is mainly responsible for killing. After leaving seclusion, Shihao chased the magic medicine again and accidentally entered the ancient burial area. Suddenly, the black mist surged, and a burial man suddenly opened his eyes. This burial man is mysterious and has earth-shattering power. However, what was somewhat unexpected was that when he saw Luo Jianfei, he trembled all over and knelt down to kowtow. Shihao's eyes lit up, and without saying a word, he directly deceived the buried soldier into being his thug. After leaving the burial area, Shi Hao searched everywhere and killed many foreign masters who broke into this world. After learning that there was an elixir in the ancient burial area, Shi Hao looked at it with his eyes and wanted to enter the holy land of the burial domain together. However, when Shi Hao stepped into a burial place, a stone tablet suddenly appeared, lingering in the atmosphere of the avenue. Moreover, he also heard, "Huang, the soul has returned and reappeared in the world, Wu." Someone cried bitterly, extremely sad. Shi Hao was stunned for a moment, and then got angry. "What do you mean? The soul has returned? Reappear in the world? Damn it, he is not dead yet. This aren't you cursing yourself?" At this moment, at the end of the burial area, the grey sky suddenly cracked, and a long river flowed past, and a mist of chaos surged. The Holy Land revived, causing the world to change. New Year greetings may tear apart the long river of time, and may see people and things that should not appear. Shi Hao was suspicious. At this time, he listened again, and the voice sounded again. "Huang, my brother, where are you? An era has passed. Emperor of Heaven, are you really dead? Woohoo, how could you die? What happened to you? I will see your name on the road to immortality, and I will see your engravings in reincarnation. Break through the block with one punch. But, why are you still missing, after an era? Are you really dead? No more traces. I have been buried for 9 consecutive lives, sitting and watching the changes of the years, the replacement of geniuses from generation to generation, but why are you missing? Huang, my brother, where are you?" That voice was crying, heartbroken. Shi Hao's scalp was numb. At this moment, he only felt a cold air coming from the solace of his feet to the sky. Shi Hao's face was sullen, and he got closer to the Huyi, intending to take a closer look and listen. He understood. He could vaguely see a Taoist priest crying across the long river of time. Shi Hao frowned. Although what he saw was not very clear, he felt that this should be a very familiar old friend. Huang, my brother, has returned in spirit. With your talents, he has swallowed up the past and present with his anger. How come he is no longer here? Who can stop you, who can harm you? I saw you leave a message on the road to becoming an immortal, your name is still chanted in various places, and you can kill eternity with one sword. Where are you? Woo woo. There are so many ancient lands and the wilderness is so vast, but I have not given up. Even if I dig all over the world and dig up all the ancient tombs, I still want to find you. The Taoist priest is still crying. His sobs contain emotions, with eternal regrets, and he is sad for the passing of his old friend. He is wearing a loose Taoist robe, which is woven from supreme fairy gold, but now it is damaged and stained with blood. Obviously, he had gone through a bloody battle. Shi Hao looked at this man, feeling a little sad for no reason. Could it be that he had really passed away? Someone was looking for him like this? At this time, he heard another voice, "Master, how many epochs ago part of the former underground evil grave has been dug, and continuing like this is not an option. That person disappeared for so long that it is impossible to verify and find, and it is impossible to guess where he is buried. Master, it's time to go. The enemy is coming soon. We have to fight and we can't dwell on the past." The man who was like a disciple persuaded him. However, the fat Taoist priest said angrily, "What do you know? If my brother is still alive, many things will happen. Do you know about the darkest years in history? Do you know about several epochs? The great liquidation of China? You know nothing. Master, don't you know that too?" The apprentice sighed about those years. It was so confusing. No one in later generations can tell clearly. They are all just rumors. Why does someone raise a group of phoenixes as chickens, waiting to eat eggs every day? What ancient corpse has been floating in the universe for several epochs? What kind of burial master is sealed in a broken earthen jar underground? Invincible ancient creatures sealed in 6 immortal elixirs. What kind of terrifying world is as vast as the fairyland? What does it take to give up everything in order to cross the other side of the sea? Why even after death, flesh and blood can still turn into fairy butterflies, flying around all walks of life, persisting in obsession, wandering in the ancient rivers of time. In the oldest temple in the primitive era, the person who had been sitting cross-legged opened his eyes. The apprentice said and sighed, "Master, don't you think this is a story novel? These people and these things, as long as any one of them is true, it is incredible. Can you believe these words? Moreover, the most outrageous thing is, Master, you also said that these things are just a small wave of those dark years. Oh my God, what exactly is the big wave and the grandeur? I really can't imagine it, and I dare not imagine it. Do you dare to doubt Mr. Deo? You little brat." The Taoist priest made a snap sound, as if he hit the disciple in the face. The disciple muttered, "There are so many legends, but the bronze coffin of the 3rd generation is still there, and the real thing can be seen. In addition, Enlan and Utuo are also known. For the rest, there is really no evidence." The conversation between the master and the disciple. Shihao stared at it blankly until this moment. "Cao Yashen," Shihao roared, roaring at the ancient river. Who? Suddenly, the fat Taoist priest appeared and seemed to be aware of it. Taking stock of the top 10 golden fingers, the protagonist of Wanjie went crazy. Author, Chirp. Chapter 108. Cao Yashen, the wilderness, the dark years. At this moment, countless people in the world were watching in wonder what was happening in the Great Dao Golden List. He never expected that Shihao would encounter such a thing. This Cao Yashen? Interesting. Listening to the conversation between master and apprentice, it seems that Cao Yashen will not participate in the future battle. I survived without participating. By the way, how brutal will this future battle be? Shihao was defeated. Gee, how many years have passed? Even some ancient legends are gone. This Cao Yashen, he dug up holy medicines when he was a child, and then started digging graves everywhere when he grew up. He is also really wicked. This Cao Yashen, relying on his corpse transformation, was buried underground, and survived all his opponents. Is it okay? This Cao Yashen is a bit interesting. Good guy, he can dig other people's graves, but he can't beat others digging other people's ancestral graves. This Cao Yashen is so immoral. At this time, countless people were amazed. So what if I can't beat you? If you are a master, go dig your ancestral graves. If you are a disciple, digging your grave is simply immoral. This Cao Yashen is really too stubborn. Countless people laughed. Is it okay to become an immortal by digging graves? Well, Cao Yashen, Huang, digging graves, how can this damn fat man have the same virtues as Taoist master and me? Duanda looked at everything that happened in the Dao Golden List and marveled. Sure enough, there are all kinds of wonders in the world. He can always find a few characters similar to himself. However, he did not associate Cao Yashen with himself. What experience did Cao Yashen have? He probably understands. And his own experience, tisk tisk, that's amazing to say the least. His belief is to rob tombs, to rob all the tombs in the world, to dig through everything, it's a treasure. However, he scratched his head and felt a strange feeling, suddenly. Where is that kid? Where have you gone? He stared, and when he wanted to look for Mark again, he could no longer find Mark. Damn, I'm fascinated. My baby. Duanda wailed. He thought of the green copper block again, and his heart was bleeding. At the same time, in the perfect plane, in the imperial capital of the Stone Kingdom in the lower realm. Well. Shihao looked at everything that happened in the picture. Cao Yisheng's crying, his words about disappearing and dying. His face was a little ugly. This was something he would only reveal in the future, but now, he saw it with his own eyes. What is this? Is this a different kind of rebirth? Shihao said to himself. He looked at everything that happened in the Great Dao Golden List, saw his own misery, saw himself fighting and killing Tian Xiao, but in the end, he was called back to his senses by those voices. Will he die in the future? Killed countless geniuses and giants, and ended up dying like this? There is still a friend who has been looking for me like this? Cao Yisheng. He said to himself, subconsciously looking at the sky and the upper world. He took a deep breath. No matter what, I want to change the future. His eyes were deep and he clenched his fists subconsciously. At this moment, all over the world, those related to Cao Yisheng, and even those not related to Cao Yisheng, were all discussing crazily at this moment. They only felt that there was a lot of fog. There was a strange tripod before, and it came to this life to find Shihao and let Shihao participate in a certain battle. Now, they saw the picture of the future again. Really? At this moment, Shihao roared loudly, and Cao Yisheng's name shook the burial ground. Can anyone tell me what happened? Shihao shouted. Strange, why did I hear someone calling me by my previous name? Across the way, the fat man whispered. Fatty Cao Yisheng, Shihao shouted again. The fat Taoist priest heard it more clearly. He felt suspicious for a while, as if he had noticed something, and his pupils shrank. Is it, that there is a door? Suddenly, his whole body flashed with golden light, and his immortal power surged. He suddenly penetrated the ancient river and looked towards Shihao. He saw the situation here. However, when he saw Shihao's appearance clearly, the whole person was stunned, as if struck by lightning, his lips were trembling. Huang, is that you? You still here? You are still alive, he growled, suppressing the emotions in his heart. But he still couldn't help it, and the tears fell down in a flash, and he looked straight at Shihao. Tell me, what happened? Shihao roared, and the sound shook the whole world. The Taoist priest opened his mouth, with an excited expression, as if he was talking about something. However, the next second, a thunder struck directly, and his whole body was blackened and trembling. Well. The fat Taoist priest sighed and closed his mouth. This, Shihao clenched his fists and stared at the opposite side with his eyes. He understood, their conversation involved important events, which might very well change everything and affect the course of time. To put it simply, spoilers have been struck by lightning. But the fat man didn't flinch. He gritted his teeth and resisted the thunder. Shihao didn't dare to ask any more. He was afraid of causing some terrible disaster to Fatty. After a long time, he sighed, looked at the fat Taoist priest and asked, "Are you okay?" The fat Taoist priest looked at Shihao, and after a long time, he sighed. Before I became an immortal, it was okay, not bad. It's just that I often, after being bitten by a dog and becoming an immortal, I really didn't expect that. The second half of the words were drowned out by the rolling thunder, and Shihao was unable to hear them. How is it after becoming an immortal? Shihao wanted to hear clearly, but couldn't hear clearly at all. He was a little sad. Today's fat Taoist priest is no longer the little fat man in the imperial pass. He has gone through endless years and has already become an immortal. It is hard to imagine how rough it is. From simple words, it can be heard that Cao Yisheng was buried for 9 lives, and his corpse changed in each life. He climbed out of the ancient tomb again and continued to practice. After every corpse transformation, there is a new beginning, experiencing the mortal world and tasting everything in the world. Moreover, is Cao Yisheng still the Cao Yisheng he once was? The spirit decays, but the physical body is immortal. What kind of spiritual consciousness is born again in the powerful flesh and blood body? Shihao sighed. For a moment, he didn't know what to say. Shortage. Brother, I am still me. At this moment, the fat Taoist priest opposite seemed to understand what Shihao was thinking, and immediately shouted, I am not a simple corpse transformation. I have cultivated the 9 marks of reincarnation. I really remember the past. I am still me. Even though Cao Yasheng is now very powerful and his cultivation is unfathomable, he is still excited when he sees Shihao again. Endless years have passed, and this is the first time he has seen an old friend in his memory. Especially, this person is still Wow. The fat Taoist priest's eyes were red. He thought of his former friends, the rabbit and the horned ants in his youth. In the end, he could only sigh and be destroyed forever. He remembered everything in the past, especially the person in front of me. In that era, one pushed through the darkness and fought into the distance alone. He wanted to help, but left regrets in vain, and was finally buried. He really didn't know if there was anyone who could fight side by side with Huang. If not, Fatty couldn't help crying again. It was too painful. Huang had to face too much. Fighting in the sky, I believe that you were the strongest during those years and will survive. But why is it missing? The fat Taoist priest yelled. Thinking of the future, he couldn't help but want to ask. He could not wait to cross the long river of time and have a long conversation with Shihao. The world is so big, there is always a place for me to go, and I will not die. Shihao smiled and said comforting words like this. Right? You won't, you will show up eventually. Ha ha ha, I'm waiting for you. At this time, Cao Yasheng laughed loudly, but while laughing, he cried again. Boom. There was a thunderous thunder from the sky. Even if it was not a secret, it still crashed towards Cao Yasheng. Cao Yasheng was not afraid. He took the initiative to attract all the divine thunders and only fell on him. After a long time, the tribulation thunder dissipated. Cao Yasheng burst out. The array's teeth are bared, one mouth is like a thief god, and every mouth is like a Taoist master. Where are they? Suddenly, Shihao asked. He knew he shouldn't ask, but he still couldn't help asking. Cao Yasheng knew who Shihao was asking, but he didn't know either. When I was buried, they. Before he could finish speaking, the even more terrifying calamity thunder fell directly on him, which was extremely terrifying. They are with you, Cao Yasheng roared, and finally these words popped out. Then, he was covered by the thunder of tribulation. However, Cao Yasheng was very strong, and he roared, I will overcome the tribulation with you with the immortal power. This may not be considered a secret, but he said it. Otherwise, he would not be able to speak at all. God can teach him how to behave. Shihao felt relieved. It seems that the future is not impossible to change. At this time, just then, Cao Yasheng said, I have been looking for you for many years, but I can't find you. I have traveled all over the world, but I can never see you again in this world. I am really happy and excited to see you today. I have no regrets in this life. I haven't had the urge to cry in years. Immediately, he clenched his fists and looked at Shihao solemnly. I want to tell you something, even if I am punished by God, even if I die, I have to say it, this is of great importance. Shihao was stunned and his expression darkened. Then, he saw Cao Yasheng open his mouth and roar. However, as soon as he opened his mouth, countless real dragons turned into lightning, swooped down, covering him and trapping him. He thought he wanted to use his spiritual thoughts to send a message, but it was cut off by thunder and lightning. He wanted to cross over, but was knocked back by the shocking waves. Stop talking and go, Shihao shouted. He couldn't bear Cao Yasheng's suffering. Cao Yasheng was very anxious and risked his life to tell Shihao something. But that was what Lei Ting was aiming at. Whether it was his divine thoughts or himself, they were all strangled. Covered. In the end, Cao Yasheng's side was like a sea of thunder, extremely terrifying. Careful. Finally, the faint voice floated into Shi Hao's ears. But be careful, he couldn't hear it at all. Stop talking and leave quickly. Shi Hao roared, I'll be fine, I won't be afraid of anything in the future. Temple, however, Cao Yasheng was still talking, desperately trying to tell Shi Hao the secret of the future. He was really willing to go all out, and wanted to say more, repeating it, for fear that Shi Hao wouldn't hear it. However, boom, the next second, he was directly blasted by a terrifying divine thunder into a ball of blood mist and disappeared. No. Shi Hao's eyes were about to burst. He clenched his fists subconsciously. Looking at the blood mist on the opposite side, he clenched his fists. His face was ugly and his eyes were red. Cough. However, soon, the blood mist gathered again, and Cao Yasheng came to life again. He was not dead, but he was obviously seriously injured. Shi Hao breathed a sigh of relief. There is really no way, Cao Yasheng sighed. He just sent 3 words. Be careful, Temple. There are no keywords, who can know what they are? Enough, enough, stop talking. Shi Hao said hurriedly. He was afraid that Cao Yasheng would risk his life. He was even more afraid that even after Cao Yasheng tried his best, he would not pass on the key information. I don't know much, but I must find the truth and then find a way to tell you, Cao Yasheng said this. Shi Hao did not dare to let Cao Yasheng say more, for fear that Cao Yasheng would really die. Finally, there was another sigh. He looked at Shi Hao and his young face, which was full of bitterness. It's obviously close in front of you, but it's so far away in the ancient times. This farewell will last forever. I hope you take care and reappear in the world one day, Cao Yasheng clenched his fists and said in a deep voice. Shi Hao nodded solemnly. This farewell may really be far away. After a long time, he disappeared, and Cao Yasheng was never seen again. Shi Hao sighed, but there was nothing he could do. At this time, in all heavens and realms. It's amazing. By the way, what kind of palace is this palace? Immortal palace? Be careful about the immortal palace. Good money. How could it be a fairy palace? The immortal palace was almost destroyed by Shi Hao, okay. This should be some kind of special palace, but for a while, I didn't know what it was exactly. The spoilers were struck by lightning. This Cao Yasheng is indeed strong, but unfortunately, he is not so strong that he cannot spread his words to Shi Hao's ears. Struck by lightning for spoilers. Laughing to death. So does this Grand Avenue Gold list count as a spoiler? So what if it's a spoiler? The Deo Deo Golden list belongs to the Deo Deo, and you can only act honestly when the Deo of heaven comes. Ha ha ha, you are all talented, right? By the way, will the spoilers of Deo Deo Gold list have any impact on the future? It will definitely have an impact. After all, after spoilers, it may change, and if it changes, it may have an impact forever. It's not necessarily true, it's impossible to say, the way of heaven has the function of self-repair, even if it knows the future, in the end, it will still take the path of the future. Alas, this doesn't make sense. Knowing the tragic future, which path should we take? Haha, this is why so many people are so defiant. Haha, let me ask God, why did you do it that day? Damn, you are all dogs, right? Did heaven provoke you? Why, you can't live without shouting that you are going against the will of heaven, right? At this time, countless people were communicating and marveling in the Deo Golden list. At this moment, the scene changed again. These words were from the Imperial Pass. I don't know how much time had passed. At this time, Shi Hao, extremely powerful and extremely terrifying. And the person opposite him is even more terrifying. As the saying goes, on the top of the immortal world, proud of the world, there will be heaven with me, Lan. Red-edged spear and immortal shield, kill all the immortal kings and destroy Jushan. The terrifying strong man spoke calmly, with an arrogant tone, and looked at Shi Hao coldly. Huang, it's just a drop of blood, how dare you defy heaven? I, Lan, was invincible at that time, who could suppress my uncle? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Taking stock of the top 10 golden fingers, the protagonist of Wanjie went crazy. Author, Chirp. Chapter 109. At this moment, all the worlds, looking at the scene in the Great Dao Golden List, and looking at the terrifying strong man on the opposite side, are all shocked and confused. What a supreme strong man! Holding a golden spear. Holding an endless shield. Wearing armor and looking awe-inspiring from head to toe. This is Lan, the ancestor of the imperial clan. Countless people in all the worlds took a breath when they saw this scene. What an Lan! I thought Lan was so and so before, but now I see that an Ian's aura is really powerful. This Lan is already incredible. He is so strong. The aura on an Ian's body makes me feel suffocated even across all the worlds. What a great Lan! This Lan is also a pretentious criminal. On the top of the immortal world, proud of the world, there will be heaven with me, Lan. Good guy, this Lan, tisk tisk, is no worse than those pretentious criminals before. The restless giant of the immortal king is so pretentious. Shi Hao even pretended to be cool and killed 5 people in the world who dared to respect him, let alone Lan. This Lan, if he were the son of luck, would also be a forced king. At this time, countless people were discussing. At the same time, in the perfect plane, in a foreign land, he felt a little unhappy. Having watched his clansmen face off against 9 heavens and 10 earths before, he had already guessed that he would definitely appear next. Now he really appears. Full of style. Even Yu Tuo on the side pursed her lips and looked at the Grand Avenue gold list with worry. She also had a bad feeling. At this time, in the picture, with Lan holding the imperial city in his hand, looking at everything with cold eyes, the immortal king Lan stood on the ground, holding up his right hand towards the sky, resisting the original imperial city above the abyss. Countless old men in the city turned into blazing fire and swooped towards an Ian's hand. Blood splattered in the sky, all the old people in the city died, but an Ian's hand did not touch him at all. An Ian's body moved again, tearing a huge gap in Tianyuan. The void here shatters, and the river of time rushes out. All ants, destroyed, have a good death, the golden-backed bull laughed. Inside the imperial pass, despair. Who to compete with? A swarm of ants, the golden-backed bull roared, looking down at everything with disdain. However, at this moment, boom, a cauldron suddenly appeared. It was so huge that it overwhelmed the surrounding wilderness. This sudden scene shocked everyone instantly. A cauldron shook out from within the river of time. Even the immortal gods were shocked. In the end, the key thing is that when the big cauldron fell, the maternal energy of all things shook, and the golden-backed bull was fighting, it screamed in agony, broke its leg, and knelt down directly. This was simply terrifying. And there is another person on the tripod, someone exclaimed, seeing the scene on the tripod. There was indeed a person there, with a majestic figure, his back to the people, covered in blood, as if he had experienced a bloody battle in another time and space, standing there, as if the heavens were coming. Dust came across the long river of time. The ferocious beasts that suppressed Lan all knelt on the ground. This man. At this time, In all the worlds, countless people's pupils shrank suddenly, looking at the scene with incredible expressions on their faces. How could this be? Enlan himself was shocked when he saw this scene. Is this the owner of the tripod? Who is this person? So strong. I feel like in front of him, I feel like I can't even see enough of Enlan. 1 second he was still showing off, and the next second he was slapped in the face, tisk tisk. On the top of the immortal world, proud of the world, there will be heaven with me, Enlan. Utwo, save me. Ft, ha ha ha, if Enlan saw this, he would really want to tear apart the space and kill you. The king must not be humiliated. If you take one step forward, everything will turn upside down. What the hell, what has become of a generation of dignified emperors and a generation of immortal kings and giants, organized by you? Alas, the arrangement is arranged. If he has the ability, he will cross time and space and come to beat me. Good guy, you really have a bad mouth. No, the point is wrong, right? Shouldn't the owner of the tripod be the key? By the way, who is the owner of this tripod? So terrifyingly powerful. Unbelievable, simply unbelievable. At this time, countless people were discussing and exclaiming. They looked at the Deo Golden List again. And at this time, they could see that in the picture, the man on the tripod turned his back to the gods, facing the opponent alone, very calm. Boom. The next second, his body glowed. For a moment, the black hair on his head turned light golden, and his aura surged. The man waved his fist, with terrifying unparalleled power, eternal invincibility, and punched Kanyu, facing him directly. That big claw that enveloped the sky. The big claw shrank, and then turned into a person. The blue eyes stared at the man in the sky, looking at the man's back, with endless killing intent in his eyes. The two fought instantly, across endless time and space, across the long river of time. The sky was shaking. It was like the arrival of a myth. Finally, the man stepping on the cauldron spoke for the first time. Those who come, soldiers, and fight, all, count, group, move forward. The voice was like the sound of the great road, as if the Emperor of Heaven had descended, with incomparable majesty, issuing a decree. As soon as the 9 characters came out, the symbols merged into one, evolving into a supreme secret technique, and in an instant, all obstacles were broken through. The creature wearing golden armor spurted blood directly. Staggering back. It's time for you to leave. Until this moment, Enlan finally spoke and looked at the strong man opposite. However, the man on top did not speak. No one can see his true face clearly, there is fog there, it seems like an eternity away. However, those eyes are so deep that they can see through everything and see through the secrets of heaven. You know, we can't fight. If you really do that, this time and space, and the world behind you, will undergo great changes. Enlan looked at this mysterious strong man and said calmly. The two of them are too powerful. There is no way to fight. As for the person who fought with this mysterious strong man before, he was just a subordinate. But, because of the appearance of this mysterious strong man, he didn't care that the terrifying aura was overwhelming, but his mount had a broken leg bone and had to lie on the ground. Seeing that the man didn't speak, Ian's eyes flashed, and he coldly snorted, Tianyuan is torn apart. You and I happen to be fighting in 2 different time and space, and the impact of the most powerful person opened the door of time. You followed the trend and injured my mount, which is not considered a storm and sudden change, but if you go further, it will be earth-shaking. Enlan held the divine spear and immortal shield. Looking at the mysterious strong man, he wanted to fight. Finally, the mysterious strong man spoke, looked at Enlan, and sighed, I really want to kill you before going back. These words are simply arrogant. Countless people were shocked and felt incredible. This guy, in an understatement, seemed to be talking about killing an ant? Even Lan was also furious. He looked at the mysterious strong man coldly and said in a cold voice, "You can come and try it. Even if I carry Tianyuan on my back and hold the original imperial city with one hand, I will still be invincible in the world." He is extremely conceited, with unparalleled self-confidence. He is powerful and deserves to be number one. At this time, the mysterious strong man said to himself, seeming to be thinking dilemma, kill or not kill. Countless people are chilling. Do you really not care how strong Lan is? What does this dilemma mean? Are you serious? In front of you, Lan really doesn't matter. What's going on? Countless scalps. Damn, I can't even imagine how terrifying this mysterious strong man is. Lan narrowed his eyes and said calmly, "If you really want to fight, you won't hesitate. You don't have much time to stay, so go back. I have a hunch that we will meet in the future and there will be a battle." The mysterious strong man frowned, maybe he was frowning. After all, no one could clearly see the appearance of this mysterious strong man through time and space. At this time, Lan looked at the blood on the mysterious strong man and said, "It seems that you have quite a few opponents in that space and time." This man was covered in blood, and he could feel it through his breath. Some of it belonged to others, some of which are his own. All the powerful men in the world were injured. It was obvious that the era in which he lived in time and space must have been cruel on the battlefield. However, the mysterious strong man smiled and said lightly, "Only in this way can we hone our invincibility." Throughout the long river of time. At this time, one person was very excited. That, CFE, was Yechingxian. Yechingxian looked at the mysterious man in the sky, her beautiful eyes constantly weeping. Her body was a little unstable, even a little blurry, but the immortal bell mark on his body trembled slightly, and she calmed down again. "You and I don't belong to the same time and space, so we really can't change anything and can't do anything," the mysterious man sighed softly. I don't know if he said this to Lan or to whom. Immediately, he turned around again and suddenly said, "This is not the first time I have crossed the river of time. It is a pity that it is just like this time. These are not the times I want to witness. However, I also discovered that there was a drop of blood that was similar to mine, but it belonged to this era. It once traveled with me, but inexplicably turned around and returned to this world. A drop of blood." At this moment, countless people were shocked. What does this mean? At this time, Shi Hao, well. At this time, Shi Hao was wandering in the ether, dreaming back to the ancient times. So what if 1 drop of blood, 10 drops of blood, or 100 drops of blood? And Lan was very calm and said indifferently, "Go away. Staying in this time and space for a long time will not do you any good. Even if I don't do anything, you will die." "It's so frustrating," the man sighed. However, the next second, he appeared in front of Lan, and the rich blood energy rushed out from the top of his head, reflecting the sky, making the long river of time above him tremble. Ian's pupils shrank suddenly. Does this guy really want to fight? Once there is a war, it might change the entire ancient history. At this moment, Lan also became fierce and pointed his spear at the mysterious strong man. The two sides confronted each other, and the atmosphere became tense for a while. And at this moment, a dazzling light suddenly appeared on the wall of the Imperial Pass. Shi Hao roared involuntarily. A drop of blood emerged from his body, dazzling and eye-catching, emerging from his body. Immediately, the blood began to spread, as if it was turning into a sea, unleashing supreme power. There is a drop of blood in his body, which is a drop of blood that was once found in the earth of all things in the immortal ancient relics. That drop of blood actually fell from the cauldron and was collected by Shi Hao. Now, this drop of blood is starting to cause trouble. The drop of blood began to shrink, falling on the flower of the avenue above Shi Hao's head, and passed through the 3 flowers respectively. For the first time, the little man who seemed to have been born in the past suddenly opened his eyes, becoming more and more mysterious. In the second one, the little man who was locked by the initial energy suddenly broke free and was freed from the shackles. He was surrounded by the initial energy and became a guardian, which was uncomfortable. On the third flower, as the blood beads rolled away, the blurry figure sitting cross-legged on it became clear, shocking the sky and the earth. Shihao roared and raised his head suddenly, his eyes suddenly became empty, as if he was a different person. There were also signs of reincarnation appearing on his body, all of which were transferred to the top of his head, beginning to evolve the secret of reincarnation. Boom! Remember that the reincarnation seal suddenly rotated, wrapping the three villains together, and then, they merged into one. Laugh, in the end, the drop of blood fell on the only villain and rushed into Shihao's body. Blood light exploded. Shihao was like the god of war. As a powerful person, he seemed to be communicating with the future, with the help of supreme power. What is going on? Countless people. He was in a daze, his face full of confusion. Even Enlan frowned slightly. What he saw was that the mysterious strong man drove away on the cauldron and was located at the crack in the long river of time. He watched quietly and said no more. At this moment, Shihao was very fierce, unruly, and filled with murderous intent. He jumped up and left the Imperial Pass. Who dares to claim to be invincible? Who dares to be invincible? The Emperor's fall era is gone. Shihao shouted coldly, with sharp words and a sense of vicissitudes of life, as if an emperor had come from distant ancient times. That drop of blood was obtained by you, Enlan looked at Shihao indifferently. Yes, Shihao responded, very indifferently. Want to cause chaos even with a drop of blood, and Ian's eyes were dark. Not to cause rebellion, but to suppress you, Shihao shouted coldly. Countless people took a breath. This Shihao is so crazy. He only got a drop of blood, and he suppressed Enlan so arrogantly. What the hell, is there something wrong with his brain? Countless people were shocked. They looked at Shihao, and then, they were really stupid. Because, Shihao was really inseparable from Enlan. The terrifying divine light burst out, dazzling and shocking. Just a drop of blood. Just a drop blood, Shihao has gone from being a prisoner to now being able to defeat Enlan. So terrifying, so terrifying. This drop of blood is not simple. This is the consensus of everyone. One drop of blood, reincarnation for eternity. One drop of blood, suppress overwhelming everything. The key is that a platform appeared above Shihao's head, a drop of blood shined, and a person appeared in the platform, and the person sat cross-legged and stood up. Boom, the next second, the man walked down and moved towards Enlan. At this moment, everyone was stunned. Because they were very familiar with this man. They could see that there was a square tripod above the man's head. Made of fairy gold, with the mother energy of all things hanging down. It's so familiar. This is the mysterious strong man from before. Countless people were stunned. Why did the mysterious strong man from before pop up in Shihao's mind? But obviously, Shihao had no explanation. The mysterious strong man blasted Enlan to death. At the same time, another person appeared on the platform above Shihao's head. The person sat cross-legged, with the mark of reincarnation flowing. At the same time, the man also stood up and walked away from the platform. Come down. He has a majestic figure, with the courage to swallow up the world and look down on the long river of time. His face is also blurry, but above his head, there is a tower with 9 floors, exuding the aura of the universe. Immediately, Shihao's words on the stage, another figure appeared, but this time, the figure did not step out, but merged directly with Shihao. At this moment, Shihao, the mysterious strong man, and the man on the top of the tower, all attacked Enlan. And Ian's face changed wildly. Enlan, Am invincible, who can defeat me, he roared, and the terrifying power made the sky collapse. However, boom, what greeted him was the suppression of a tripod, a tower, and a sword. Taking stock of the top 10 golden fingers, the protagonist of Wanjie went crazy. Author, Chirp. Chapter 110. Hiss, what kind of evil skills did Shihao practice? Horrible, simply terrible. The little man above his head turned into the mysterious strong man. Can you still use the mysterious powerful cauldron? Horrible. Xiaoda, that mysterious strongman, plus Shihao's own Deluo sword embryo. Tisk tisk, and Lan is going to be completely slapped in the face. Shihao's words are simply unbelievable. One drop of blood, reincarnation for eternity, one drop of blood, suppressing the sky, cowhide. What's going on with Shihao? At this time, countless people looked at the Dao gold list in amazement. They just felt unbelievable. What is this? Isn't it too ridiculous? Copy. Paste. Countless people were shocked and confused. At this time, in the perfect plane, in the lower realm of the Stone Kingdom Palace, Shihao was also surprised when he saw this scene. What is that? He was at a loss. This was created by his future self. He didn't know what happened. He didn't know what kind of technique it was. He just felt extremely surprised. At this time, the goddess and Xiaoda are crossing. They can also see the golden list of the avenue above the sky, without stopping. Now, when Xiaoda saw the man with the 9-story tower on his head transformed by Shihao in the picture, he laughed. What kind of evil method did this boy come up with? Even me was transformed. Lu Shen looked at it. Dao Jin Bang, in this lonely world, it is comforting to see Shihao. She chuckled. Maybe, he can even draw it out for me. This kid is invincible. Although the transformed me is not as powerful as me, it is enough to suppress that in Lan, Xiaoda laughed. At the same time, in the world of Jishan. At this time, Yefan had already left the right and wrong place over the eastern wasteland emperor's tomb. On the way, he looked at everything that happened in the Dao Golden List, and his eyes were full of surprise. Especially, he looked at the picture. The man who controls the tripod always feels fascinated. What a strong man! He is simply an unparalleled strong man. At this moment, he yearns for it. Yearning to be such a existence. Strong, it is really too strong. Crossover coming from time and space, the momentum alone can crush eternity. It is simply unbelievable. By the way, who is Ye Qingxian? Why are you looking at that strong man crying? Yefan frowned, a little confused. He always felt that Ye Qingxian had a secret, a big secret. But he didn't know what it was exactly. He shook his head and threw Ye Qingxian out of his mind. Staring at Shihao again, watching Shihao evolve into the two of them, he couldn't help but be speechless. This should be some kind of skill, right? Can others evolve to help fight? Horrible, Yefan was surprised and felt incredible. At the same time, the mortal world. Transform into someone else and help fight? There are 3 little people and 3 flowers on his head. Are those 3 flowers gathering on top? Han Li looked at the great Dao Golden List, saw the 2 people transformed by Shihao, and the last person merged with him, with terrifying fighting power, suppressing An Lan, and he couldn't help but be a little surprised. The 3 fairy flowers on Shihao's head looked very similar to each other. The legendary 3 flowers gathering on the top. This 3 flowers gathering on the top is almost the same as their immortal Dao system. This Shihao can transform it. Doesn't that mean that they can also transform it using these 3 flowers? Han Li surprise. At this time, in the world of emperor domination. This An Lan is so powerful, and this Shihao is so strong. Nan Huiran looked at the Dao Gold List in horror. At the same time, he couldn't help but be fascinated when he looked at Shi Hao's figure that transformed into a small tower and fought with the mysterious strong man. This technique is a bit interesting, Li Qi was a little surprised. As an eternal saint master and an imperial master, he could naturally see the extraordinary nature of this technique at a glance. What was transformed was not an illusory shadow, but an entity, the kind that could truly fight. From now on, when others face off against Shi Hao, it will be a 1 versus 3, or even a 1 versus 4 situation. This Shi Hao can truly be invincible in the world. However, Li Qi chuckled. Naturally, he didn't take Shi Hao seriously. He just thought that Shi Hao's technique was interesting. If he wanted to create one, he could create it. When the time comes, he transforms into the immortal Emperor Akihito, the Black Dragon King, the Empress. Tisk. He can fight 3,000 emperors by himself. If 4 people, can't they fight 12,000 emperors? Are these 9 heavens and 10 earths still to be destroyed by him? At this time, countless people in the world were discussing Shi Hana's great method of transforming people. Simply cowhide. When I think about facing this kind of person, 1 against 3 or 1 against 4, my scalp feels numb. At this time, it was seen that in the picture, Shi Hao transformed into 2 strong men and forcibly suppressed An Lan. 1 cauldron, 1 tower, 1 sword embryo. 3 peerless ferocious soldiers killed everything. Some people think that it is Shi Hao's third life. They think that the mysterious strong man is Shi Hao's future, and the man holding the tower is his past. The past, future, and present will kill An Lan together. Some people believe that Shi Hao is a creature living in reincarnation. Strong in the past, strong in the future. Reincarnation? I look down at reincarnation and see life and death. Who is reincarnating? Even if the immortal king is cut off, he will turn into dung. Who dares to reincarnate in front of me? Reincarnation is just a beautiful joke. A truly strong person never believes in reincarnation, An Lan roared. He held the spear in his left hand and the escape in his right hand, and began to launch a fierce counterattack. He denied reincarnation. He did not think that Shi Hao was reincarnating. It was just the drop of blood acting as a demon. Yu Tuo speculated that this was his method of freedom. In the era of the emperor's fall, he can transform into freedom. He can transform into other people's bodies, and borrow other people's realm fruits. He can transform into freedom, which is extremely contrary to the heavens. It is the supreme law in the era of the emperor's fall. Boom. At this moment, Shi Hao's eyes were cold and stern, and the sword embryo exploded, hitting An Lan in an instant, causing An Lan to spurt blood from his mouth. Countless people were dumbfounded. Just a drop of blood, how could this Shi Hao be so defiant? It's incredible, it's incredible. Everyone's expressions changed with shock. Now, Shi Hao is truly unstoppable. 1 second ago, An Lan was still showing off. The next second, Shi Hao went on a killing spree, vomiting blood from the giant immortal king. His free-forming method is too terrifying, simply terrifying, and appalling. The strong man from the foreign land looked extremely ugly. Yu Tuo also clenched his fists subconsciously, looking extremely worried. On the other side of 9 heavens and 10 earths, some older people felt a little passionate when they saw Shi Hao suppressing An Lan. Who is An Lan? A generation of immortal kings once roamed the heaven and earth, killing the sun and the moon to the point where the sky and the earth were dimmed. He was one of the culprits who destroyed the 9 heavens and 10 earths that year. It is the most hated existence in the 9 heavens and 10 earths. Now, he was suppressed by Shi Hao, and even seriously injured by Shi Hao. Finally, the war came to an end, the mysterious strong man left. And An Lan is not dead after all. Shi Hao can't kill An Lan, after all, there is still Yu Tuo. At the critical moment, Yu Tuo will come to the rescue. Moreover, the most important thing is that the power in Shihao's body is limited, not unlimited. After his power faded, he could not kill Enlan after all. However, this battle was still deeply rooted in people's hearts and shocked everyone. All the worlds are plunged into heated discussions. What a Shihao, a drop of blood can make him fight Enlan. If I remember correctly, this Enlan should be the immortal king, right? Tisk tisk, how many years has Shiha practiced? Only in your 20s, right? He has already started beating Enlan. Horrible, simply terrifying. Haha, the top of the immortals is proud of the world. With me, Enlan, there will be heaven. You Tuo, save me. Ha ha ha, you're laughing so hard, you guys are really not afraid of Enlan coming across time and space to kill you, are you? So scared. I transformed the Dafa of freedom, transformed eternity, transformed reincarnation, and directly transformed into an emperor of desolate heaven. Emperor of desolate heaven then transformed into Willow God, a small tower, a mysterious and powerful man. What the hell, if I don't believe it, I can't kill Enlan. What the hell, where are the stuck bugs? His transformation freedom technique is truly terrifying. He can transform small towers, powerful people, and transform everything. Hey, I just don't know if he can transform Enlan. If Shihao transforms Enlan, it will be a sure blow. By then, an Ian's face will definitely look ugly. Damn it, you are all really talented. Hush, keep your voice down, don't let Shihao see it, otherwise, he will transform Enlan into fighting Enlan in the future. Are you the devil? At this time, countless people were discussing. At the same time, in the perfect plain, in the imperial capital of the Stone Kingdom in the lower realm, Shihao looked at the Great Dao Golden List. Occasionally, he took a surprised look and saw the conversations of countless people in the Great Dao Golden List. The corners of his mouth twitched crazily. He transformed into the Dafa of freedom. Is Hua Onlin okay? Sure enough, all the worlds are full of talents. If a war breaks out, he will really kill Enlan in the future. Come out, isn't Enlan going to vomit blood? However, when he thought about it, he felt it was impossible. It shouldn't be that simple. However, he didn't know what it was exactly. Subconsciously, he looked at the Avenue Gold list again. But what I saw was that at this time, in the picture, Enlan saw that Shihao had become weak, and without saying a word, he destroyed the imperial city with one blow. After the city wall collapsed, the big hand directly reached the sin state of 3000 days. The giant hand grabbed it and forcibly pulled the sin state up from the ground. At this time, Shihao, who was fighting another immortal king, looked back silently and saw the mulberry trees falling. His eyes turned red instantly. He blasted away like crazy, but his power was simply not enough. Enlan held Suizhu in his hand and returned to a foreign land. The runes burned and the abyss collapsed, blocking the two realms. Shihao's eyes were filled with floating mulberry flowers. At this moment, his eyes were red and he was killing the imperial clan. Shihao single-handedly suppressed many imperial clans and swept across all directions. However, the fire mulberry flowers drifted away, and the people in Suizhu completely disappeared in the 3000 days. Even Meng Tianzheng also died in one battle because of this. He picked the Dao fruit in advance, and the final glory was bright and terrifying. The foreign supreme beings he killed fled back one after another. Unfortunately, he had one regret: he failed to become an immortal. Master is dead. Huo Ling'er was trapped in a foreign land. Shihao had begun to get tired, so he returned to the lower realm Enshikan. The patriarch is still the patriarch. All my childhood playmates are still there. However, he can no longer find the innocence he once had. He placed the stone clan of the imperial city here. Immediately, he went to the virtual god realm and saw Master Bird and Uncle Jingbai again. He followed the two of them to the black ancient palace at the end of the virtual god realm. There are many stone statues here. They are creatures who transcend the extreme realm in every realm, but now they are locked here. After fighting with him for 6 days and 6 nights, Shihao finally passed the level and obtained the true Phoenix treasure technique. Shihao is naturally invincible in the lower world. But he has to do business after all. The army of darkness is coming. They rode the warship and slowly sailed towards the 9 heavens and 10 lands. The Black Plague spread, covering thousands of miles of land in the blink of an eye. There was an invasion of the Imperial clan before, and now there is an invasion of dark creatures. The most important thing is that as this dark plague spreads, countless creatures will also turn dark. In the blink of an eye, all 700 states fell. For a time, corpses littered the fields, and all living beings were devastated. Even when this blood of darkness stained Shihao's body, Shihao almost turned black. Yes, it's scary. Shihao almost turned black, let alone others. Once he was stained with this black blood, he would turn black directly and completely transform into the hostile camp. The 3,000 provinces were in emergency, and they had no choice. Those in the Immortal Palace could no longer be enemies with Shihao. In order to protect themselves, they had no choice but to come out and build a pass to block the invasion of darkness. On Shihao's side, he was also thinking about how to solve the problem of darkness. If the darkness is not resolved, sooner or later it will affect the entire human race. When the time comes, no matter how strong the means, there will be no way to save the situation. On the other side, under the persuasion of his mother, Shihao finally got married, to Yun 11. This marriage was not just as simple as getting married, but also required leaving an heir. Under the pressure of his mother, Shihao had no choice. Shihao's wedding was so grand. However, when he arrived at the bridal chamber, Shihao looked at Yun 11, but what he was thinking about was Huo Ling. Endless guilt came to his heart again. The next second, Shihao's expression condensed and he forced his obsession out of his body. In an instant, the essence of heaven and earth fell like a waterfall, and Shihao directly became the supreme. The inability to become the supreme is just because the state of mind is not perfect enough. Now I am in a perfect state of mind and become supreme. However, at this moment, the heaven and earth changed dramatically, and the age of ending Dharma came. In this environment, it is difficult for monks to make progress in their cultivation, and the lifespan of creatures of all races will also decrease rapidly. Shihao wanted to know the details and flew to the upper world. But he saw Cao Yusheng and a little puppy in the land of reincarnation. After eating steamed buns stuffed with dragon meat, Cao Yusheng turned into a 7 or 8-year-old boy. And that little boy was also against the will of heaven. He had followed the immortal King Wu Ending in ancient times, but was seriously injured and was buried in the land of reincarnation. Perhaps, this little boy was the dog that Cao Yusheng mentioned later that bit him. Shihao laughed for a while. Immediately, everyone saw that Shihao had created heavenly court again. Sweep the dark creatures and destroy the major family traditions that collude with the dark creatures. The purpose of establishing heavenly court is to restore the true nature of all living beings through their wishes. But when the age of ending Dharma came, Shihao became the supreme, but none of his friends around him could become the supreme. The scene changed, and we saw again, Yongzi gave birth to Shihao's son. When he was born, a cloud of clouds rolled in the sky, and the avenue roared. Shihao is the Lord of Heaven and the Emperor of Desolate Heaven. And this child of Shihao is the Crown Prince of Heaven. Nowadays, Shihao's strength can be said to be unparalleled in the 9 heavens and 10 earths, and even the immortal king can hardly match it. This is Shihao. One can imagine how happy it would be to be Shihao's son. Countless people envied him and wished he could take his place. Ahem. Shihao's son was so unbelievable. He had magical powers when he was born, and when he cried, he was as big as a bell. If it grows up, it will be simply evil. Even the owner of the restricted area was alarmed and came to see the child in person. Because this world is too chaotic. This child may not be able to grow up. The world is in chaos because it is too dark. This is an unprecedented dark turmoil. Shi Hao finally ascended to the true fairyland and brought Huo Ling'er back. Unfortunately, Huo Ling'er's memory was lost and she no longer recognized Shi Hao. Shi Hao was in vain. He retreated again and risked his life to attack the immortal king realm. He tempered his body, and his body finally entered the realm of the immortal king, but his soul was not yet the immortal king's soul. He was preparing to attack, but at this moment, Ao Sheng came with 2 other immortal kings, and the immortal light was swaying to kill Shi Hao. Yet Xingxian, the master of the forbidden area, blocked it hard, completely destroyed it, and turned into Wanjie. And Shi Hao couldn't escape the fate of being killed by this immortal king. Shi Hao, Yu Yi.